Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Community Spotlight. We're going to try this again. We've got a Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer episode for you all today. We're going to start off with a speed run showing off all of the tracks, and then we've got a special exhibition match being run in the format of the tournaments that the community likes to run because there's a tournament coming up soon. So if you'd like to learn this game, get in on the racing action, you can try to see how you stack up against the other players if you want to join in on the tournament. So we'll be plugging that throughout the show today. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder that Summer Games Done Quick 2022 game submissions are open until March 30th. You can find more information at gamesdonequick.com. And the COVID safety policies were also just posted on the website today. So if you're interested to see like what restrictions are going to be going on, you can check our website. You can find all of the information there. And of course, we would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing, as Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits. And if you tune in tomorrow on Hotfix, there's going to be a special Pokemon Unite Hotfix Showrunner Showdown. A bunch of the people who helped make Hotfix happen are going to be playing some Pokemon Unite, just having some fun on Game Masters, which will be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. That'll be followed by Time Capsule at 10 p.m. with Nier Automata and Breath of the Wild. So a lot of stuff coming on Hotfix. We got content almost every night of the week starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on weeknights and weekends starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we're going to be starting off with a 100% run. We've got Damaray here who's going to be running for us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. This is going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to all of it. And hopefully things go well.
Yeah, we're joined by Paige. She's going to be helping us with commentary. How you doing, Paige?
Doing all right. I've been trying to get this game showcased on stuff for a while now. It's good to have it. It's good to have in front of some eyes.
Yeah, and I know you two wanted to explain some stuff about like mechanics and how this game works before we hop right into the run. So why don't you get started on that, and then we'll get started on the run afterwards.
The one big thing we really wanted to explain before we got into it, just because it comes at you really fast right at the start of the run, is the first track has a skip just a few seconds out of the gate.
Yeah, and it's really a quite major skip at that, too. It cuts about probably 75% of the track off or something like 70% of the track off. And really all you're doing is you're climbing up this kind of obscure wall on the side, jumping out of bounds and going back in right before the finish line again.
Yeah, basically. And since there's a 3-second out of bounds timer that just auto kills you, regardless of if you have invincibility cheats on, you just explode regardless.
That's amazing.
You have a very, very tight window to get out of bounds and back in bounds. And you'll probably see Dom explode once or twice trying for this skip.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is probably the most inconsistent part of the run, and we're starting off with it, so it can only go so many ways.
But I think that's the main explanation, and on the next couple of tracks, we'll get more into the core mechanics of the game.
Okay, sounds good. I know there's a lot of stuff to get into with like the engines and stuff, but as long as we're getting to it, I'm not going to ask us to get into that first. So whenever you're ready, Dom, give us a countdown and we'll get going.
Alrighty, I hope everybody is ready for a fun time pod racing today, and we're going to go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, and here we go.
Oh, right, we're starting with Odie. So, as you'll see, we go straight out of the gate and follow the track normally for the first 7 or 8 seconds, and then we immediately go to this wall, turn, and start climbing an invisible seam if we can get lined up on it.
Yeah,
it's a little bit tricky.
This wall is extremely hard to get on, and if I slip off it numerous times, that is why. But once we get up it, we're going to slowly start climbing. Now, for anybody who's familiar with this run, they might be surprised to see me using Odie Mandrill, given that this run is typically done with EB Endicott here, as well as in the following tracks for a couple tracks. But Odie Mandrill is surprisingly decent at actually getting this skip once he climbs up this wall.
Yeah, and now that we've started the climb, this should work out.
It is important to note that the launch here and the window to actually boost are very tight.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that this won't work, but luckily for us, we're going to get one to work here.
Yep. So that is that lap was actually slower than the normal time with doing the full track. But
Ooh, camera not being very helpful here, but that's all right. We're just going to turn around and reset it again. And here we're going to get on the wall really quickly, so this should be much faster than a normal lap.
yeah. A normal lap you can expect to be in the 49 to 52 second range.
Another clean launch, so this should work.
Should. Gonna be a little close. That's not bad. And the out of bounds timer resets every time you cross back inbounds by even a couple of pixels. It's really weird. Oh,
So are there any skips where you're like going in and out of bounds just to extend your timer?
Kind of.
kind of. It's
The closest would be Zugga Challenge, I would say.
Yeah,
There's
and-
3 separate skips per lap, and a couple of them are back to back.
yeah. We're not gonna spoil exactly how that one goes, but it is chaos. I don't think anyone's gotten a deathless triple 3 for 3 in a run. Or
Not in a run,
in
no.
a hundo run.
And we are out of
217.
here.
That's not bad. That's about 10 seconds faster than what you'd get going normally. So now we're going to get into the really cool part of this run since we're running with upgrades.
Yeah,
The upgrades in this game, ooh, that,
was a little bit too healthy, I think.
okay. So the upgrades in this game, you can get really late game upgrades just from going to the junkyard and getting them handed to you really damaged before you can normally afford them. In this case, we reset for either a very heavily damaged second tier speed upgrade or a less damaged first tier speed upgrade, which is what we got.
Yeah, unfortunately, that means that based off of how the mechanics of money work in this game, we're not going to have as much money going forward. And I think Paige can do a pretty good explanation of why that is with pit droids.
So, engine or vehicle parts get damaged based on not how many times you explode, but on how much you scrape during a run. If you're playing well, you should never scrape the walls, meaning you will only have whatever damaged parts you bought from the junkyard. And every pit droid you have, you start with 1 and can buy 3 more for a total of 4 during the run, will fully repair one of your parts every time you complete a track that you have not finished before on that save. So if you buy 1 damaged part while you have 1 pit droid, it will be fully healed after this track, as you'll see when we go back to the junkyard. Every part also has a fixed trade-in value that is based on the amount of health remaining on that part.
Oh, I get it.
So you make a profit by buying these damaged parts, cleanly completing a race, and having it healed.
So
Which lets
you
you-
ideally always want to find a high tier, very damaged upgrade when you're looking
Like
for
this.
your choices.
The one he just got. I'm going to have to look at the other stream to see exactly how damaged that was, but it was probably about a half health plug 8.
Unfortunately, it was only a plug 5 this time, but it's going to work out
was a
all
5.
right. The unfortunate part of this category really is the fact that you do have to look for these damaged parts. However, it does make the run significantly faster, and I would argue that that's far more entertaining.
Yeah. It is pretty difficult to really nail down a lot of the time. Just because it's so finicky and it is pretty much the only RNG in the game. Like your part health and what you get given in the junkyard, along with stuff like putting out engine fires and AI positioning when you lap the AI, which you are inevitably going to do in some of these tracks. But we also have a skip here that he missed on the first lap. That's
Yeah.
all right. You get 3 attempts for it, and it doesn't save much time.
It doesn't save or lose much time, luckily, so if you miss it like I did just there, you're only losing a few tenths, and it makes up for it if you even get it one time.
Yeah. Now, lap 2 is where you get a bit of a distinction compared to lap 2 and 3 is where you get a distinction compared to lap 1, because this tent on the left opens up and you can drive through it. And this saves a lot of time.
It saves a lot of time, yeah, for sure. It's, however, very tricky to actually do properly because you want to cool off on it. It's a mechanic that is known as fast terrain, and essentially it gives you free speed boost.
Yeah. which is also a great segue into us explaining boosting. Basically, the biggest core mechanic of speedrunning this game is managing your boost. Every pod has a base top speed that gets a base non-boosting top speed that gets increased by your speed upgrade. Every pod also has a fixed boost thrust. EB Endicott is, I believe, 190, which is one of the lower ones in the game. But the ratio between how fast he heats up while using the boost, which is your limiting factor, and you'll see whenever Dom boosts, you'll see that bar on the bottom right fill up slowly. Every time he's not boosting, it's going down. On EB, it's at a pretty comparable rate to the rate it goes up.
Yeah, without a cooling upgrade, EB is pretty easy to manage here. So it's actually pretty nice to be able to go through the tent here without having to boost. But with a lot of pods, it can actually be really tricky to nail down.
Yeah, and you'll see...
Is that what the like engine overheating thing is going on in the bottom left?
Yep. Yeah, your temp warning is when you're getting close to that overheat. There is also an audio cue for it, but it seems we're not getting game audio right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that between this track.
Not
Okay, so
getting
after
game
this-
audio.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But let's see if we can get this skip, because I realized we didn't actually explain it laps 1 or 2. You basically just ride this wall, and you're supposed to go through the wall on the opposite side of the cave that it just has no collision.
Yeah, luckily we got it on lap 2 there, so we at least could show it off. And it still should save me time over not doing it at all.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of like turning your engine sideways like this? I see you do it a lot.
The big thing is that it reduces your hitbox. It literally turns your model on the side and all of your collision.
So it's just for squeezing through gaps easier?
Yep.
Okay.
It also lets you take some tighter lines. All right, what do we need to do for audio?
Tough. So is it on my end or?
It's on your end, yeah.
Okay.
We're just not getting any from your stream.
Okay, 1 second.
So let's see. After that track, we finally unlock the first vehicle upgrade, like first new character that's useful, with Aldar Beto, who, believe it or not, is only pod racing because he's an assassin targeting another character in the game. That's deep lore stuff that we don't need to get into.
That sounds about right.
Believe it or
Wait,
not,
there's
this
lore
game
for
has
this
weirdly
game?
deep lore.
I didn't expect there to be lore for the Star Wars Episode 1 racing game.
Oh, the guidebooks go hard. Including one of them being very mean to a character. But the pod we're getting has worse acceleration, lower traction, but a higher non-boosting top speed until we get max upgrades where everyone has the same top speed.
Yeah, I believe audio should be back. Sorry about that.
And the big thing is, Beto's boost thrust is literally double EB's. So instead of
Yeah.
increasing your speed by 180 to 190 units, it increases Beto's by 360.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And the reason
That's a
I called
lot.
it just speed units is on the American releases, the back of the box says you're moving at 600 miles per hour.
Oh, no.
On international releases, it says 600 kilometers per hour.
That's a very big difference.
So we just call them arbitrary speed units.
I mean, we could lean into the Star Wars memes and call them parsecs.
No. Though it would be a place where parsecs actually make some sense because they are a measure of distance.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Was that a 5 or a 6?
That was a block 5.
Okay, that's all you need.
And we also had enough money to get a dual coolant pump and the pit droid for it. So this is very nice.
So now that we're on a pretty chill track, we can get more into the explainers. Cooling is very, very, very important on Beto. EB's engines cool off in 9 seconds. Beato's take 22.5.
Whoa.
But
Okay.
he can maintain his boost for longer, and his boost is way stronger.
Yeah, and when it comes to speed in this game, the main stat that matters really is that hidden boost thrust stat for almost every single situation.
They range from Juan Sandedge with 180 to Ben Quadraneros with 400.
Oh. Okay.
So
For a pod like this, where it takes longer to cool down, you absolutely don't want to overheat. You want to.
overheating actually doesn't punish you any more in this one than, like, every pod overheating punishes you the same way, with an engine fire.
Okay.
That engine fire, it has a 3% chance to be repaired every frame you are repairing, and there's a repair bind and function to just repair your engines. So it's one of those things that, it's one of many, many, many things in this game that are frame rate dependent.
Oh no.
See if I remember the list. Traction, force of gravity, durability in 2 different ways. Load times are the big 5.
Yep, and then the other thing is what the kind of major distinction for this category is, which is both menuing itself and the act of climbing walls.
Yeah. The
So-
higher your frame rate, the easier it is to climb a wall. But the less height you'll get when you launch off the top of that wall.
Oh, because gravity. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
there's
very mixed
big
bag.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So for this track in particular, you'll notice that it seems really simple, but this section here is really easy to make a mistake on. So that's why I'm trying to use up as much boost as I can before and after that section rather than during it. But on lap 3, however, it's going to be a lot more difficult because we actually have good cooling with Aldar here. But the main thing with, like you mentioned earlier, you were asking about whether or not overheating was really bad with Aldar. Well, what it actually is that you want to make sure that you spend enough time to cool down rather than worrying about overheating. Because if you do really short boosts all the time, you're going to go significantly slower since it takes time for the boost to actually get up to speed. So you have to manage your boost in the sense of not boosting too often.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And on a counterpoint, what punishes you way more than overheating is what we call underheating, where you cool down for too long and you're just sitting there on 0 heat. Because you're
Oh, yeah.
neither boosting or charging a boost, you're just sitting there bleeding time that it is literally impossible to make up.
Yeah, because like anytime you have any amount of heat, you can either be building it or cooling down. So anytime you're like no heat is bad.
Yeah.
Just like waste of resources, right?
Yes. Also, you'll notice he just bought an acceleration upgrade, and you saw it did barely anything to that bar.
I mean, that bar is like so small. I didn't realize it was there until the upgrade like added a little thing onto it.
So, we are on one of my favorite tracks in the game, and I'm going to geek out over this one for a second. On its face, and for 80% of it, it's very simple. Long boost, couple of turns, big hill. Then there's fast terrain to your left, but not to either other direction. So you'd cool off on the fast terrain and then boost after. Here's a big jump, and then here is the most impactful turn on any track.
Oh my god.
That is a single 180-degree hairpin.
Yes, and it is very difficult to do with a pod like Aldar at this speed with no turn response because of the turn rate of the pod. Aldar has tied for the second worst turn rate in the entire game, making any big turns extremely punishing if you make a slight mistake.
Yeah. But he is a great example of lower traction not always being a bad thing. If he had high traction in this turn rate, he would be unusable. But since he has low traction, you can start going into a drift really early and basically only have to turn about a quarter of the distance. Because the way drifting works in this game is you just basically release all traction, so you change the orientation of your pod without changing the direction you're moving in fully.
Yeah, makes sense. Just got to get the timing on that drift right, otherwise you're slamming into that wall, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And while you're sliding, it your durability just goes down the drain. If you're sliding and scrape a wall, you just usually explode.
Oh, okay.
Especially on this left wall if you kick out too wide. All right, that was not bad, though. This is going to be a sub 2? Yeah.
So in terms of this speed run we're doing, which is like, all the races, managing your upgrades, if you explode, do you lose the parts you had, or?
No, exploding is literally just costing you time. It doesn't even damage your parts. It's only engine damage of scraping a wall.
Do you have to like restart the race, or is it just you
Nope.
magically respawn after a little bit?
It's Lakitu.
You take,
Okay.
you take about 3 seconds or so to respawn and be playable again.
Yeah, but every death, every single death will cost you different amounts of time based on how much heat you were at.
Oh, interesting.
And also, sorry to everyone, we've been really going deep into mechanics more so than actually explaining tracks as they go, but these amateur circuit tracks are all very simple on their face.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything super complex yet.
This,
But it
however,
seemed
is
one
the
very
single
complex.
most complex one because this entire
Whoa.
tunnel, as we've talked about before, is fast terrain. So managing your boost here while also being in this new way of running, i.e. where you are stuck in the middle of the tube and have to go around, is extremely difficult.
Especially
when
with
you first start
Beto.
out.
Especially
yeah.
with Beto as well, because his low traction makes him really bad at controlling in there. And his pod is big. So it makes it very hard to avoid all the rocks. There's also a rock in there that if you die to it, you get stuck inside of it on respawn.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Just it soft locks you?
We thought it soft locked you until I accidentally got out of it by tabbing out and tabbing back in a couple of years ago.
Oh no.
I think you were
Changes
there
the
when I
frame
discovered
rate.
that. It was backstage at a GDQ.
Yeah, because it changes the frame rate when you alt tab, right?
Yeah, it only checks for collision every frame.
Oh no.
Yeah, you were there when I discovered that. It was backstage
Yeah,
at GDQ.
I remember you discovered something at Pod Racing. I didn't remember what it was. Yeah.
But on laps 2 and 3 on these tunnels, they start spinning you randomly. Spinning is
Yeah.
not a good trick here at all. Spinning is bad.
I like the reference. Good one.
We got to get prequel memes in somehow, right? Also, one quick fun fact that I forgot to mention: the previous track in the game, the Malstar 100 with the big hairpin, is modeled directly on Sonoma Raceway, which is a real-world track.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's going to be one other track in the game modeled on a real-world track coming up in the near future.
However, you will not be seeing much of the actual track.
Nope.
Oh, more skips. Okay.
Oh, yeah. In
So you were saying that like exploding costs you different amounts of time based on your heat. If you're like higher heat, it costs you more time. Is that?
your
less
higher
time.
heat, it costs you less time because
Wait,
it
what?
resets your heat to 0 when you respawn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And no, there is no real way to cheese that to get more boosting. We've
No
tried.
intentional explosion strats.
We've tried every way to figure it out.
There's only a singular situation that I know of in the entire game where dying is actually beneficial, and it is so niche that I don't even find it worth mentioning, to be honest.
I actually don't even know what it is.
Zugga Challenge no upgrade
Oh, yeah.
skips.
Yep.
It sounds like more like the type of thing where if you already made a mistake and you lost all your speed, maybe it might be worth it to drop all your heat. But like, I assume respawning would cost you speed that it just wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah. But now we're on to the final track of the amateur circuit, which is a pretty straightforward, a very long track. It's about 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
around.
4.5, probably with this setup.
Yeah,
around
I was
4.
I was curious about the estimate because these tracks have been pretty fast.
Oh, they get longer. They get much longer.
Okay, that makes more sense.
The Fire Mountain Rally and Grabvine Gateway are 4 to 5 minutes each.
Yeah. The Fire Mountain Rally is going to be the single longest track time in the entire run. It's going to run anywhere between about 5:15 and 5:30, depending on how many mistakes I make, because it's an extremely difficult track to do.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're going to see the difficulty curve go off the charts in the next set of tracks. Like, these first 7 tracks are not easy. but they are
Good
very
introduction.
simple compared to the others. They're a good introduction, except for Vengeance, which I still believe swapped places with Scrappers Run in the next circuit.
It really doesn't belong. That's for sure.
Yeah, no.
So there's a lot of races here, and the difficulty, as you're saying, is a little bit all over the place. So when you do the tournament, is it like all 25 races up for grabs? Is it a subset of the races that you're picking between?
In the tournament, all 25 tracks are up for grabs, but we do have a track ban system in place so players can kind of avoid certain ones. Like in the first couple tournaments, I banned Grabvine Gateway every match. It's the hardest track in the game.
And also my
makes
favorite.
sense.
Oh, I love it now, but I hated it 2 years ago.
I mean, if there's a track you just don't want to put the time into, yeah, it makes sense.
And that track's a lot of time. Let's see,
Yeah,
are there any other big
sure.
mechanics we need to explain before getting into...
And we did have
Semi-pro?
one very important meme question about mechanics in chat.
no.
Somebody asked if you can run over Jar Jar Binks.
Unfortunately, no.
I wish
Jar
you
Jar
could.
is in the game technically as a background model in Watto's shop.
Oh my god.
There is, in fact, a terrible, terrible Jar Jar model.
It is really bad. There's a chance that we'll see him in one of the times that I go to the shop. We'll have to keep an eye out.
There's a model there for Qui-Gon, one for C-3PO, one for Anakin, and one for Jar Jar. As well as the quintessential Watto model that everyone loves.
Someone in chat's asking about braking. Like, how does braking work in this game?
You don't press that button.
There's hardly any situation where braking is actually worthwhile.
Wait, in my initial
There are-
guide I was writing for newer players in this game that I never finished, literally one of the segments I had was labeled Breaking Bad.
Good. I like it.
There are, I want to say, 4 spots in the entire game that you break.
So it's just one of those things like, does it bump your speed down the moment you stop boosting? So just like, you can instantly brake that way, or?
Yeah, you basically air brake a lot of the time by just going off throttle if you need to.
Yeah.
A couple of players, namely Ace, does like having a binding where he cancels his boosts with the brakes instead of going off throttle. It's a very, very marginal thing that saves at most a couple of frames.
So what it is that if you are on a section where you need to use more boost, if you cancel with your boost like I am here, then you can recharge the boost a few frames earlier than if you had canceled it without that because you're not repressing a button.
Yep. It's so niche and marginal that it doesn't really matter. And we just finished the first set of tracks.
Yeah. And the
now
game capture
we
just went.
cancel out of the game because of that cutscene.
That cutscene is about 40 seconds.
I was gonna say the game captures went black because you're restarting your game.
Yep. And now we wait for the load time because, old game has long load time.
Yeah. Isn't this game older than you?
Yes, it is. This game is going to turn 23 this year, and I'm only turning 21 this year.
Oh my god, you're so young.
We're having an extremely long load time.
Yeah, this is a
time.
very long one. What the
What
hell?
the heck? This is very abnormal, but you know what? Sometimes the game just acts like this, so it's all right.
Game just wanted some attention.
Yeah,
It's getting
wanted
showcased.
it wanted to be on a load bar for a little bit. There it goes. Wow.
So,
and now we
semi-pro-
have a mouse on screen, as one does.
Yeah. Semi-pro circuit. This is where the tracks get fun. And we unlocked a new character to replace Speedo. He had a good run, but now we get Mars Guo, whose pod is even bigger.
Oh my god, that's huge.
Oh no.
What?
Let's just put it this way. My controller decided it didn't want to register.
Oh, good.
I was like, is this a strat? Is there a
No.
speed strat for
No.
not going at the start?
So this is not good for me, but some people do play on keyboard. So I guess good
Oh, you're
for
playing
them.
on keyboard?
Well, I just started playing on keyboard because my controller is not working right now.
Oh, no.
Oh no. I
Oh,
thought
God,
you got it
and this-
reconnected.
Oh, God, and this shortcut.
Yes.
With Mars. Okay, so this shortcut coming up is really hard at the best of times. Okay, that was actually decent. You saw how tight that corridor was?
Oh, geez.
You're playing as the widest pod in the game.
Yes, without a controller. This is a fun time.
We also lost audio again.
Yeah, game
Oh, my
audio's on
word.
again. So we might have to just reset this circuit.
Well, to be honest with you, we're just going to have to. Yeah, actually, you know what? That's a good idea. We're just going to reset this circuit. I think the game took too long to load and just refused to work. Couldn't tell you why.
All right, so let's pause that timer. So yeah, it's going to give us a chance to actually talk about the track this time. This
I've got
is
a
Sunken
question.
City. Yep.
Has that ever happened before?
Yes, actually. Many
Oh.
times.
Yeah,
I
the
tried.
game can be very inconvenient when it comes to this stuff.
All right. So
And
you wanted
so-
to explain the track.
Yeah, it's less because there's anything really cool about this track and more that it's our first like significant instance of going back to a planet. The fourth track of the amateur circuit that we played on was the Aqualaris Classic, which is kind of Baby's first track on this world.
Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulties here. I think it started not responding. That makes sense.
That's just, it's on GDQ. Got to have some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, exactly. What,
part of the
would
package.
what would a speed run be in a showcase if you didn't have technical difficulties? And it also crashed everything that runs my controller, which explains why it wasn't running.
that's a powerful crash. What the heck?
Yeah, it took out like 3 or 4 separate softwares at the same time. I don't know.
Wow, game is powerful today.
It is.
Yeah,
So if you want to learn this game,
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of shocked. I don't think it's ever crashed that many things at the same time. I think that one's the first.
so where should people go if they want to pick up Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer?
Well, if you want to just pick up the game, it's actually available on every major PC distributor. It's not on Epic, but it's on GOG, Steam, and Origin. It's also available on PS4 and Switch, with a re-release about a year ago now.
Oh, okay. But if
I
people
think
want to learn to
it's-
speedrun it, where do they
Year and a
go?
half. If you want to learn to speedrun it, we do have a Discord server. I can't post the link, but we do have one, and it is in.
I got it.
Yeah, it is findable either through the link being posted in chat or through the speedrun.com page for Episode 1 Racer.
Yep. And there's also some resources on speedrun.com in terms of actually learning the game outside of just talking to the community in case you wanted to get a head start before you join. That is entirely up to you.
Oh, it is also on Xbox. Thank you, Lightning Pirate. I just keep forgetting the Xbox One exists.
Understandable, to be honest. Because, I think that one came out later than the other two as well. So, like,
Not sure.
the Switch and PlayStation releases, I believe, are actually earlier, which is kind of interesting.
How's the restart going?
I believe things are functioning now. We'll find out in a bit once the game actually decides to start opening again. This has
Yeah, I
been
was going to
an
say, I don't see
unfortunate-
it yet.
Yeah,
I see a lot
no,
of gray.
It is a lot of gray right now. This is true.
Yeah, one warning about the game. If you choose not to join the Discord, it is very finicky to get working.
I think this is a perfect showcase of that. Even though I'm very experienced with getting the game to work, it is still not working completely.
But we have a lot of people who are very experienced helping to get it running on basically any system in the Discord.
Is there like a task? Like, is the process still running in the background? Maybe.
I believe Steam is having issues now. Because I run through Steam and it complained to me about Steam, so we're gonna fix that. It's perfect timing for all this to have happen, of course.
Yeah, best time.
Yeah.
2 other places you can play the game if you decide to go all in and go a little retro with it. It was also originally released on 64 and Dreamcast.
Oh, really? Is it like the same game?
Yeah.
I saw some people talking in chat about the N64 version. You could control it with 2 controllers.
Yeah. It also only played music on the 3rd lap of each track to save memory.
That it did. And it used the same sounds for a lot of the different tracks. like in
That's
terms of the music.
amazing.
It's pretty great. Yeah, I agree. I'm honestly
yeah,
amazed that this is taking so long.
Don't worry
Okay.
about it. To backtrack to what I was saying a little while ago, though, the track we were just on, Sunken City, is the first really thorough example of going back to a planet for a more complex version of a track we just did.
Okay.
So this track shares a lot of its length with Aquilera's Classic that we already did. You'll see the same start and the same end, just a very different middle.
Oh, I see a load bar.
Yeah. This is what tripped us up last time, though.
That it is.
The bar
But
was
I
so low,
did
but we
notice
tripped over
that
it.
I believe it was Steam's fault because Steam actually updated the instant I closed my game.
Oh.
So,
It's
you
late
know,
enough that Steam's like, it's close enough to Tuesday, right? We'll push that update.
Yeah, people aren't doing anything right now.
People aren't awake.
Yeah, who would be awake at this time of the day?
All right, give Pod Racer your energy, chat.
It needs
It apparently needs a little bit of help.
It needs a lot of it right now, apparently.
Also,
If any,
I'm
if any
going
other
to give it
Pokemon
a moment
viewers
to
are
make
still
sure my
around, give us some
controller
ones.
functions and that the audio is working again before we get started because I don't want everything to be completely broken. That would be preferable.
is the controller working?
Okay, we have controller and we have audio. Okay, cool. Wait,
Yay!
no, controller. No, come back. Controller.
No.
You can't instantly give out on me, controller.
You
Oh,
use an
my
Xbox
word.
controller, right?
Yes, I do. And it is literally just quitting. Okay, well, this is not fun. Why is it not registering?
Now, another fun fact. Every control scheme is viable at the top level. We have
Interesting.
top players on mouse and keyboard, top players on, or a top player on a flight stick.
Light stick, okay.
Yeah. No, it's actually really good for this. Another high level player plays on a GameCube controller. Still
Okay,
not sure how he does
think
that.
we're okay.
Yeah, it looks like.
All right, let's get back
Hey.
into it.
Whew.
All right.
That was an interesting no chance, bro. Are you kidding me?
It broke
Why?
again.
Yes, it broke a second time.
Try reconnecting your controller.
I have unplugged it a couple times at this point. I am very confused.
Somebody in chat's asking if anybody's run this on DJ bongos.
I've not seen that.
So I think they mean DK bongos.
Yeah.
Guitar Hero controller.
I don't.
Bandana controller.
The only concern with that, the only limiting factor is you need a lot of buttons for this game.
Yeah.
Like a lot. On the GameCube controller, Nacho basically ran out of buttons, and we had to bind nose up to the start button for him to be able to do a specific skip.
That's funny. Should we take a quick break here while you try to get this resolved?
Possibly. Yeah, I would say a quick break because it's just something is not going right here.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick break. We usually take breaks on long runs anyway. We just did that during Pokemon during the previous show. So we're going to go to a break screen. Just stick around. We'll play some music, vibe to the music, and we'll give Dom some time to figure this out, not on air, with a little bit less pressure, and then we'll be back with more Pod Racer. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around through our technical difficulties. We're going to rejoin the run that had been previously in progress. We stopped it because technical difficulties. Got everything figured out. As you can see, Dom has control of the game again. So what were you all explaining before this broke? You wanted to talk about this track.
Yeah, since we've gotten the basics of the game explained and gone through, this track is our first big example. Oh, I need to mute the mainstream. Oh, that's the first death.
Yeah, it is the first death. That's unfortunate.
Slightly weird spot for it, too.
Yeah,
But-
it's the fix that we had to do changed a little bit of how I have to control this, but it works out. At least, there's the shortcut. That's
Yeah, that
not
shortcut's
surprising.
very hard, honestly.
Yeah, that's not
And
surprising.
this is the backup. Still saves time over the normal way by a lot. But yeah, this is the first example of us going back to a planet for a harder version of the same track. It opened the same way as the fourth track of the game, Aqualaris Classic, but this middle is very different. It has this giant, really cool arena set piece. I really, really like the aesthetic of this. The execution is still very 1999, but
Yeah, a little bit.
but it's cool that they were ambitious enough to try for a big set piece. And now we're back on to the ending of Aqualaris Classic, complete with that really tricky figure eight.
Luckily, Mars has a significantly better turn rate, so we can handle this much easier than before.
yeah. Mars is actually kind of broken.
In a lot of
Like-
ways, he really is. He has he has an above average boost thrust, above average length of boost that he can do. He
Longest boost
has
in
an
the game,
above
right?
average hover height, so that means that he is a little bit higher above the ground, which makes certain aspects of the game easier.
Things like wall climbing and longer jumps.
And then he also has a good turn rate on top of all that. Okay, we're gonna do something a little bit fancy here.
Oh no. That actually worked.
It's a fun little trick that I know Ace does in his runs, so I've
Yeah.
kind of started picking it up.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ace was going to do this and had to bow out, but he's here in spirit with that trick.
Yes, he is.
So how much does a track that shares set pieces with the previous one mess with your muscle memory a little bit? You have to remember, this is not the track I was running before. This is not the track I was running before.
I would
When
say
you-
if you are getting started at the game, you hardly even notice the overlapping pieces. And so if you learn each track for what they are on their own, you don't really ever have that issue. At least I don't think I've ever had that issue personally.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever run into it because the shared set pieces are usually the most straightforward parts of the track, for one.
Okay, yeah.
And two, they tend to be separated thoroughly enough that it just kind of feels like its own thing. They did a very good job of not feeling like it was recycled content.
Yeah, makes sense.
Plus, this is something that gets done in the real world a lot too,
Oh yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
cool. They really, really put a lot of work into really nailing a lot of the logistics of racing. How would pod racing work? And I really appreciate that. Also, a fun fact on that kind of topic, we did the math a little while back, and on average, each of these tracks would be about 7 miles per lap. Just think about the scale of this arena.
Yeah, it's a big arena.
You're in that thing for about 10 seconds going 700 miles an hour.
If you do the math, the driver is also very dead from G-forces.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
Sci-fi suspension, you're good.
Yeah. Don't have to worry about realistic physics.
Right. Yeah, as unrealistic as this is, I love this. And there we go. That's our first real backtrack going on. It's a very basic track. Once you start learning things, it's kind of baby's first advanced track. Howler Gorge. Same kind of thing, but instead of Aqualaris Classic, we're going back towards Beto's Wild Ride.
Is that actually the name of the track?
This one's Howler Gorge.
The other
there's
one
a
is in
previous one,
fact called
Beto's
Beto's
Wild
Wild
Ride.
Ride, yes.
Yes.
And
Oh my god.
And a fun part about that is the fact that the track favorite is Aldar Betu, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
So it is named after the person who is track favorite.
Yeah, not sure how that worked out. But this track is really cool. It has our second really example of heavily diverging paths. They don't really make a huge difference, but it's basically there's one fastest route, and it's pretty static. It also has the largest intended jump of the game, with that long flight.
Of course, there are ones that we have found that are significantly larger, but
Yeah.
we'll save those for later in the run, and I think you guys are going to enjoy them.
Yeah. So we're going to be seeing a lot more skips coming up. Like, the next track is where you're going to see something very reminiscent of the first track in the game. Which is really funny, because if you run the full track, it's the second or third hardest in the game.
How tight is it to squeeze in between the pillar and the wall there, like you keep doing?
Oh, it is fairly tight. Oh, it's... Yeah, we crashed into the tent there, which is not a great place to crash, but sometimes it happens because of how fat Mars is. Like, he's a really wide pod, and especially if you notice there, my boost didn't cancel, and I was intending to have it cancel, so I kind of had way too much speed to turn.
Yeah. And I've always wondered, since you blow up hitting that tent in this vehicle, what is that thing made of?
Oh yeah, that's a terrifying question.
Like, what kind of fabric is in this universe?
It's probably like whatever they make vibroblades out of, I would assume.
That's Durasteel. That's a metal. This is just fabric.
Is it fabric or does it look like fabric? Is it a stealth tent?
You know, these are good questions.
Yeah. Man, this also has these pretty tight gaps to get through. They tend to actually be really tricky for newer players because you're going so fast, and it's really hard to get onto a like perfectly straight line relative to the track.
Someone in chat's asking if you can boost longer on the snow levels.
No.
No, unfortunately you
fun.
cannot.
You can, however, not boost as long when you're driving over lava.
Interesting. So they did it the punishing you way, but not the helping you way.
Yeah.
Yep.
The interesting thing is if they accounted for the low temperature, it would actually affect your acceleration.
Yeah. It would have been cool, but it would have been a little much.
Which is probably why they did it. Like, making everything accelerate slower just wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
It would have, however, been very interesting had the cooling mechanic actually been a thing, largely because of how much more speed you would actually be forced to do on these tracks.
Yeah. It's also a fun one if you think about it. Why is your hovercraft getting affected by being off-road?
And why do you get slippery on ice? There's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the pod actually attaching itself to the road that you're racing on.
So, I think that might come down to the whole movie tie-in game.
Yeah.
There may have been a point where they were making a racing game and did not know that it was going to be a hover racing thing, you know?
Oh, that's true, actually.
So, maybe a lot of the physics about, they get given a design document of, engines overheating and, all the basic mechanics.
Yeah.
And they don't know that it's a Star Wars thing and that it's magic hovering race cars,
Real quick, we do have to go in to the shop real quick. We saw Qui-Gon there. And buy a couple of upgrades for this skip, which is the Doug Derby skip. And I'm just going to let it speak for itself.
Okay, I mean, you're immediately riding up into this thing.
And you stop, you immediately turn around, and you get credited for going over the finish line. And you do it again.
This is some Mario Kart 64 nonsense going on.
Oh, no, you think you've seen Weather Tenko? You haven't seen anything yet.
Oh boy, this skip
no.
is really hard with this setup for upgrades because normally you have a much better acceleration, and when you're on this really steep incline, it can be hard to get the pod to grip enough. But luckily, dying there is a lot better than having the track unload, because that's another issue with this skip. So in this game, the game likes to save space by unloading and loading in parts of the track based off your progress, as you can see when I'm in there. However, if you hit the wrong triggers, then this thing isn't going to update. But luckily, we made it through just fine.
Yeah, that was pretty solid. Ooh, Scrapper's Run. This is the one that I still firmly believe was planned to be in the first circuit, not the second circuit. But it's a really cool opening. And it's also our first time on Ord Ibana. Floating City. Not Cloud City, that's on a different planet. But this one, very small skip here, which we didn't quite make, unfortunately.
Yeah, didn't quite get that one. I had a bad angle, and sometimes that happens, but it's a fun skip to try to pull off. Now, this section is actually really horrifying because of that right there, and that was a great example of what I was going to about talk about, so I guess I kind of cursed myself into that death, huh?
Yeah, so in short, the Galaxy's very lucky that this planet's main export is Tabana gas and not guardrails, because you can drive right through them.
The guardrails are essentially there for suggestion, to be honest, because if you are tilting as this character, you will fly over them as if they do not exist.
Oh, every character. It happens with Ben, too.
So they're more aesthetic purposes than functional.
Yep. All right, let's see if we get this time. Much better angle.
To be fair, you get the impression from the movies that, like, safety is not a priority in pod racing.
Oh, at all. The Bunta Classic in the movie had a literal fatality rate of 70%.
Yeah.
5 people finished that race. And not a fatality rate, but I think 2 people died and 70% of the pods exploded.
Yeah. It's a very, very deadly sport. And to be honest, I can understand why it was banned, you know? I mean...
Yeah. Here's a lore bit. It was banned...
Oh,
nice.
almost saved it. Almost saved it.
It was banned by a group called the Rats Tyrrell Foundation. The family of Rats Tyrrell, who is the one who exploded in the movie.
That's amazing. I didn't know they specified that.
That is only in the guidebooks for this game.
Oh, is it? Okay.
At least as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so the question is, now that the extended universe was thrown out, is the guidebook canon?
It's currently the only writings I know about for pod racing in general, so I think it still kind of is. Zucker
Nice.
Challenge. This is where the skips get wild.
Yeah, this is where everything starts looking kind of insane.
Like,
However, it is really entertaining and satisfying to get them.
yeah, like, if you compared Doug Derby to Mario Kart 64, I'm going to compare this one to a Mario Kart Wii Ultra Shortcut.
Okay.
So this track per lap has 3 different things that we would call skips. And yeah, the first 2 are very annoying to get back to back. And the last one, it can be deceivingly difficult to actually not mess up.
Yeah. So we have this little market segment, which looks very similar to, but is different from the one on Spice Mine Run, which shares a fair bit with this course. But here's the first skip. You got to go between those. There's just no collision there. Then you have to ride this wall, and you can't quite make it.
Yeah, that one right there is really difficult to get, especially with this pod. So the normal Metapod, that's a bad turn. The normal Metapod, Ben Quadinaros, can do that section actually a lot easier than this pod, even though this pod is actually more known for skips within the community. And that is actually due to the stat that we talked about earlier, which is hover height. So because Mars can climb walls really easily, in most situations when you try to climb that wall normally, you actually end up climbing it too quickly.
So real quick, this is the third skip. Couple of wall rides, then you jump over this, and you'll notice that we're nowhere near a finish line, but we got credit for the lap. Finish lines are an infinite plane,
Good.
and as long as you're in the right checkpoint zone, hence the ultra shortcut comparison, it will give you credit. So that one, it doesn't actually save time by getting you closer to the finish line. It saves you time by landing on the third turn of the track and getting credit because of weird zoning.
Okay, yeah.
You can essentially think of the entire first 10% of every track as the finish line.
Yep. In
So
very
as long
specific
as the
scenarios.
track is loaded, then it can account for your lap.
Let's see a second try at the triplex skip.
It's so weird that you just drive into that wall and it doesn't exist.
Ooh, that was really close, actually.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that on the last lap. If not, it's just because of the pure difficulty level of it. So it can be expected to go wrong, but regardless, doing these skips is still going to save me time the way that I'm doing them now. And I'm really only losing around 7 to 11 seconds per lap, depending on if I'm dying or not, which I have, unfortunately, both times here.
So let's see if you can get this. Good. This skip is actually very easy.
And you can
We were
see the
talking-
AI going around under us, which is always entertaining.
Those can blow you up. AI's hitboxes are infinitely vertical.
Oh no, why?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It's very scary because if they are
They're not
Like,
infinitely vertical, but
essentially what it is that if you are in the same section as them, then they act like a kind of like a normal pod with a weird height. But if you're not on the same section of the track, or what we call a spline, then they act as if they are in the UVU 4 tubes. So they just follow the spline in the air, which gives them a weird hitbox for when they can hit you.
it's very strange. Well, I don't think we fully understand it, but there's an idea. Good. There it is.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is a very specific way of bouncing off that wall.
Yep. It's
is
very,
very
very
difficult.
hard. Oh, and it also unloads that for a second.
I mean, we were
No.
talking before this run started, and you said, like, you don't think anybody's ever gotten all three laps during a run, right?
Yep.
No,
Nobody's
I mean, the
ever
only-
gotten it during a hundo run. However,
Yeah.
there are two people who have done it with an IL situation, which are myself and another runner named Goofbrush.
Didn't Lightning Pirate get it in tournament?
He didn't do all three. He did two.
Oh, okay.
Two per.
Baru Coast.
Which is still very impressive.
Baru Coast. This one, in an IL setting, depending on who you ask, gets called the hardest track in the game, at least as Ben. As Mars, it's still brutal. But this is where you get a really cool big jump, at least.
And this is not a skip. This is what we like to consider a dev-intended shortcut, just because they put a kill plane there as if they expect you to try to go for that.
They also put a giant ramp there.
They did, in fact, put a ramp there. So,
But yeah,
it's quite interesting.
here's where straight up mechanical skill and APM comes in. These switchbacks, it's very hard. It doesn't look like it necessarily, but that's also because Dom's very good at this. And holding that boost is deceptively difficult.
Had to do a little boost cancel there because my angle's horrible coming out of it, which
It
is a
really was
consequence.
sketchy.
It's a consequence of the upgrades. So I don't have the max turn response upgrade yet, which means that the actual ability to accelerate my turn rate is still lower, and that kind of messes with your muscle memory, even if you're used to it.
Yeah. Because every style of play in this game, like no upgrades, max upgrades, and this mid-tier upgrades, mid-run thing, everything has such different timings. It's like you're playing 3 different games.
And really, it's hard to even get used to switching pods if you're not really used to it, because every pod has such significantly different just stats overall when it comes to when you have to boost, how much you have to turn, how fast you're going. Everything feels entirely different. Even the traction, which we can mess around with, doesn't always get to exactly what we need it to be.
Yeah, it's very... Once you really get into it and into the weeds for it, there's so much depth to this game. Like, I've played a ton of modern AAA titles with less depth to mechanics. It's really ridiculous the amount of love and care they put into this game. For a
Interesting fact about
licensed
this
Star
game.
Wars title.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a lot of effort. An interesting fact about this game, though, is that they had a real physicist design the physics for the game engine from scratch. So you have this completely unique experience that you can't find anywhere else, and it is extremely difficult to replicate in any way.
We got someone in chat asking what your favorite pod design is, just visually. I know
So
which
my-
one it is, but...
Yeah. So my favorite pod design of the base characters, let's just start with that. Of the base characters, if you unlock and beat through the whole game and don't know anything else, right, is actually Mahonic. And Mahonic has a really interesting pod design, and we're going to see him later on in the run for one specific thing. However, my overall favorite pod design in the entire game is actually the alternate skin of the pod I'm currently using called Jinriso. And you could just input a cheat code to actually change out the skin of the pod.
It changes no performance, it just changes the look, so it's completely allowed in speedrunning.
Yeah, the only reason that we don't do it in this is because it takes time to menu the actual changing of the pod skin, so it's not worth my slight visual preference for a little bit of a little bit of a skin change. Also, that was an unfortunate smack into that wall. Almost had a clean burrito coast.
Yeah, that was a very awkward turn in general. Okay, I'm safe. You didn't beat my PB in your run. My PB here's a 402.
What? That really? Okay.
I mean,
Game.
you're playing Mars.
Yeah, that turn is actually kind of a meme when it comes to me. I've died on that turn on lap 3 on PB pace so many times. It's actually hilarious.
Yeah, same. Ooh, here we go.
Right.
Big skip. Big skip.
This is a very terrifying one to actually do in runs because you either hit it and get your time save, or you miss it and lose like 50 seconds.
50
Per
seconds.
lap. Per lap.
Per lap.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, that skip is... Oh, that's terrifying to go for. It cuts out the first third of the lap. Or actually, almost half. Oh, going for this again, just to be fancy.
I was going to say 50 seconds. That sounds like a lot. Why is that? Oh.
Yeah, there's a massive switchback section, a long straightaway, and then there's a bit of a section that's actually shared with the other 2 tracks on this planet.
The best part about it is that it's completely unrecoverable if you miss it.
With this method, there is another method that has a super jank, very inconsistent recovery, but that method is also slower to begin with, so we don't use it. In fact, I think I've only gotten that recovery strat on the other route once.
Yeah, so like this method, you have to get it. And with Mars, it's actually a really specific setup you have to do. Otherwise, you just don't get to skip at all.
Yeah, he's probably 3rd or 4th easiest to get it with, but it's still very hard.
This is where you insert the Twitch chat meme of just get the skip.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's 50-50. You either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy, bro.
Okay. That hairpin is actually easier than the one on Malastare 100. I don't fully know why, but it's just always felt easier to me, and I think to everyone I asked.
It's a lot easier to understand, too, because M100 is pretty much defined by that hairpin, and you can lose or gain a lot of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that hairpin, unfortunately, we have to break in this setting just because of our traction setup, but normally it's not even that bad. All right, we got it all 3 times. That's good.
Nice. That is much harder than it looks.
That third one looked a little bit more scary. Was that any different, or was it actually a little closer?
He landed on the wall a little bit lower, but it was okay.
Okay.
Essentially what happened is that I had to cancel my boost earlier than I intended because I was running on higher heat than I thought. And so I was on slightly lower speed, and I didn't get as much height because of that.
Mm-hmm. Lap 2 also was a little sketchy. He had to turn early and land on the ramp instead of the landing pad.
Yeah, and having that awareness to do it is actually a lot harder than you would think in terms of reaction time. Because you have to see it almost immediately or you're going to miss it.
254. Nice.
And now we hope that the game will reopen this time.
Please
Properly.
reset correctly this time.
And a reminder to restart the Discord stream.
Yep.
So, you know how we've been seeing a skip every few tracks coming up to here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about to see a lot more.
Multiple skips per track.
We're going to see numerous skips in this. In fact, there's only 2 tracks in this 7-track circuit that don't have skips in this setting.
Yeah, there are only 2 tracks left out of the 11 left in the game without a skip.
Yep.
What?
Yeah. So the first modern run of this was something Ace did about 3.5 years ago, and that had 4 skips in it. Or skips on 4 tracks. We now
Total
have
or just this section?
total.
Total.
We
my God.
now have skips on 15 of the 25. And a bunch of those were discovered in just the past year or 2. It's been kind of a revolution, mostly fueled by Ace, literally just taking a month or 2 and driving into walls over and over again. I'm not
I mean,
kidding.
that's what it takes with this types of games. People theorize a skip, and then they just gotta crash a bunch and see if they can get it to work.
Yeah. Then A little after that, we managed to basically crack the game. We have access to every model, including the track models.
Hold up 1 second.
So skips became a lot easier to find. Oh, you have 2 instances of your controller program running?
Well, that's not what's supposed to be the issue. It's just like my boost charge stopped working.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Of all things,
Oh, no.
oh boy.
Chad, give us your energy.
This should be okay.
No.
This should be okay.
I'm scared.
Please work. Oh, hey, look at that. We're back. Cool.
Okay. Oh.
Everything's
Don't
fine.
scare me like that,
This is
Dom.
Executioner. This has the longest drop in the game.
I believe it is, yes, the literal longest drop in
It's
the game.
either this or Gauntlet.
Well, we're about to see it, and this looks really visually impressive. Oh, I don't think I have enough height. Oh man, that's painful. But
Well, we'll see it
essentially,
next
we
lap.
jump over that fence.
And you skip this entire tube. And this tube specifically is
Oh.
mean.
Yeah, as you can see there, the asteroid, which didn't even really look like it was going to touch my pod, clipped the edge of Mars's extremely wide engines.
And you land right here if you do the skip. In the end, that visually impressive, really cool looking skip saves about 9 seconds.
No, it's only 9? What the heck?
There's a lot of reasons behind it. One of them is that you're actually cutting out one of the fast train tubes, so it doesn't even cut as much like actual speed as you would hope for. And then it's
Okay.
not reducing a ton of distance relative to what you could do.
Because that distance is what you're doing in the tube. The only time it really cuts out is the time between where you go on the wall and the time to the tube. You're just turning earlier and cutting that bit of road. Also, you move a little slower in the air, just in general. Let's see if this one works.
That makes sense. It's pretty common in racing games. You want to spend more time on the ground than
Yep.
in the air.
An interesting thing to think about in this game, though, is that the speedometer here is only horizontal. It does not register relative
There we
to
go. There
your
it is.
like
Also, nothing up here. has collision.
absolute position. There's a giant drop, very visually impressive, and honestly, it's a really fun one to nail because you just get to fall for so long.
It's so satisfying. But yeah, it's another instance of, we don't need collision up here, do we?
Yeah. Who would
Like, you
ever
can-
be able to get there? I mean, like, come on.
You can tell they were aware people would try that because that fence has collision. But they didn't make it high enough.
It's quite interesting when you think about what decisions were made in the development of this game, given that they use a lot of the same track stuff, but the collisions that they choose to keep are sometimes kind of shocking. Also, that was not where I was expecting to die, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done that one.
Yeah, that slide's not normally an issue, but if you... Oh, geez,
Oh.
this is a bad mistake to make.
Yeah.
Now, this is where things get scary.
'Cause you're not used to this.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way to recover this skip, but I'm going to give it a shot because we're on GDQ, so I hope everybody enjoys my attempt at this horrible, horrible angle.
Yes, this works.
Question is, do we have enough height? And the answer is no.
Oh,
barely
I
too
thought you
low.
had it.
If
I
you
thought it was
didn't
a try
tilt.
for all the people out there.
If you didn't tilt, you had it.
Oh, man.
You dipped your engine down.
I hope everybody is appreciative of that horrible attempt.
That was so close, dude.
We appreciate the attempt, yes.
It was fun.
Made it
It was
exciting
fun.
for the fans.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. You know, you don't normally get to try to skip from an angle like that, so got to have a good time. Now, the next track is going to have another entertaining skip, although it's also not that long, like not that big of a cut. The difference between the actual IL time between skips and like not skips is only about 7 seconds. More like 6.5.
Yeah, something like that. It's cool though. This is one of my favorite looking skips. Not because it's actually visually impressive, but it's just fun.
So I assume we're just done with parts at this point because you haven't visited the junkyard in a bit.
Well, actually, there's only one more junkyard visit, and it's right before the next trek.
It's not,
And it's not the junkyard, though. It's the
It's the
actual
shop.
shop visit. And the reason being is that the max parts for specific types of upgrades unlock further along as you progress. You can
And the
access
final-
every type of part in the junkyard at any time, but the actual buy parts in the shop unlock the more races you complete.
And they're all unlocked after 16. And here's the skip. You're just kind of jumping and cutting a big corner.
So that's just a couple seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Saves 2.5
About
seconds a lap.
2.1 to 2.5 seconds per lap, yep.
There are like 4 different methods of doing it too. Like, when we were going back a few months ago and nailing down the skips definition, like re-nailing it down because we found a bunch of skips since creating the definition. This one skip took us like 2 weeks.
No, that makes sense.
It is shockingly hard to define the way that this is actually different from shortcuts that are dev intended.
It's
Because this is very clearly like not what they wanted you to do. Because they gave you 2 paths across that weren't that, and that are marked very clearly on the map. But they still left that in, and trying to define how that is different from just, for example, the Baru coast jump that we did earlier is actually extremely difficult.
Nice. Sub 150, yeah. That was really good.
It reminds me of how some other games have given up on trying to come up with a definition and just have like categories called something like selected restrictions, you know.
We almost did that. So we now have every relevant part max upgraded, and we're going to be switching to Bullseye Navoir.
This
For
might be
the-
one of the most famous casual pods to play in the game.
And also one of the most infamous tracks. So this is Grabvine Gateway. You've heard me mention it a few times. Get ready for your mind to get blown a little bit.
This track is extremely difficult. It is considered almost by far and away the hardest track in the game to do in general.
Yeah, so even just this turn is incredibly hard to do. But now you're in the canyon switchbacks, which not only are really intensive switchbacks, as evidenced by how fast he's going through them, look at those textures. If you aren't used to it, it's really hard to tell where a turn's coming up. And
This
that goes
section right
doubly
here
true.
is extremely true for that.
Yeah, and it goes doubly true in this jungle. If you don't know what's coming, you are not reacting.
Yeah, and the way that this map is textured compared to other tracks, it just feels like you're going faster than on other tracks as
Yeah.
well.
Well, it's also just look at this swamp switchbacks. Like,
This is one of the few times in the game where braking is literally necessary for this upgrade setting.
yeah. Like, it is. This track is. It took me a week as a kid to beat this track for the first time. Granted, I was also a dumb kid who didn't realize boosting existed, but. Yeah, to follow up on what King Bean just said in chat, I played this with an APM tracker, and I'm like decidedly mid-level on this track. My PB is like a 415, record's 401. And I was
That's
hitting
354.
Yeah, TAS 354. And I was hitting almost 200 APM on this track.
Almost missed a shortcut there.
Translation for people who do not know StarCraft, APM is actions per minute, so the number of individual inputs you're doing in a minute.
So I was hitting buttons 3 times a second on this track.
And like Paige said, you know, that's only like the mid-level variant where you're trying to do things in a specific way where you're just trying to survive enough. Now, I'm not doing a great example because this FPS setting is absolutely horrendous for this track.
It really is.
But-
You're on what, 48?
I'm on 60.
Oh. Why?
Skips.
All of them are doable on 48.
You tried Doug Derby and Buntu training on 48 FPS.
Boom to training, I'll give you. Doug Derby, I can do.
with not max acceleration.
Yeah, fair.
It's just a lot of them can be really tricky to pull off.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, if you can pull off all of them at lower FPS, it is actually better to do so. But
Yeah, the theoretical optimal FPS for this category is probably somewhere around 40 to 42.
oh, that's a bad fire to have because I already had engine damage and my repair is not good. So that took a long time to repair, unfortunately.
Yeah, and let's see if we can get the turn this time. There we go. So that's actually a very hard shortcut to get into.
So is repair like a stat?
Yes.
You have to upgrade your repair. And it's different per pod. Oh my word, why did it not cancel? That's a terrible time. Ah!
Might be worth crashing into the jungle entrance. Oh, a little late now.
Oh my word. Oh no. Alright, this
Ooh.
is fine. Everything's fine, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Okay, don't think about the warning. On like every okay, I'm definitely gonna die. There's literally no salvaging it. The warning timer's gonna kill me.
Yeah, once you're in a warning, it's best to just immediately either crash into a wall or boost if you need to die. Because boosting in a warning immediately explodes the engine.
Oh, does it really? Okay.
Yeah, I only learned that relatively recently.
Okay, we're gonna not think about how much time was lost on Grabvine Gateway purely because of how difficult it is. And
Yeah, no.
the way it's set up as a track just makes it so that every mistake you make kind of steamrolls more than most other tracks in the game.
Yeah, put it in perspective, Dom is number 2 on the leaderboards for this track right now.
I'm number 1 on everything but Bunta Training Flap and Mongaza Flap.
Oh, really? You are number 1? Okay. Ace hasn't been as
Yeah.
active, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been as active.
So right now you've got 48 out of 50.
Yep, and for Grabvine Gateway specifically, I have a mid 402, and the second place time is a 405.3.
Okay.
So like I'm almost 3 seconds ahead, but I still can easily mess up that track. Like it's not even a question.
Yeah, no, nobody on the planet is consistent there. Except maybe Mikey.
And Mikey doesn't have that good of a time compared to the record, so his consistency is because he's not being as risky, which is fair. I mean, that's what you should do if you're not trying to be world record holder.
Sorry, got into a tournament talk there for a second. Here we
Yeah.
get another skip. Coming up after this underground pass and ice field.
Yeah, this skip is actually really difficult to nail because of the precise like window you have to do it on.
The
But it
landing
does
is so
look really
hard.
cool.
Now we go up this. Nice. Nope, falling short.
We are going to, however, get the spline update, which means that this is only going to lose me about 1 second compared to not doing it. It's very risk-reward in a good way.
Spline update?
Spline
so-
is the actual like line of the track.
Think about it
So-
as progression.
I don't know where the term spline actually comes from. It's just kind of what we use.
Programming term, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. But yeah, it basically just defines the entirety of the track direction.
Yeah.
And you got the update. You get the update if you cross, usually on, it depends, if you cross over or under the track while out of bounds. Some places you don't, or Debana specifically with the floating tracks, you typically don't. But in cases like this, you do get it, and even if you die on the skip, you get the progression update.
Oh no, chat's making reticulating spline jokes.
What have we done?
Oh no.
What have we done?
Ah, we've awakened a beast we didn't know existed.
But yeah, this track is pretty cool. It takes Howler Gorge and Vito's Wild Ride and cranks it up to 11. Ooh, that's better.
Not going to get in a
Not
fight again, but we're still going to get the spline update for the position, or maybe I should just say my progression updated for chat to not be so obsessed with whatever they're obsessed on right now.
Yeah. So yeah, we also get Canyon, and this canyon is really, really, really hard.
For the sake of this, I think I'm going to do the third lap without the skip, just because you kind of get the idea of the skip, even though I didn't completely get it. And I'm just going to show you how ridiculous it is to do the canyon at max speed.
Yeah, Fast
And it's-
Canyon is... I've only pulled it off deathless twice.
It is significantly harder with other pods as well. The normal pod, Ben Quadinaros, has a significantly worse turn rate and also has the worst turn response in the entire game, meaning that he struggles to do it, yet it is the meta to do it at completely like max speed.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Not many people have any amount of consistency on doing even above 600 speed in the canyon. But hopefully we should be able to pull it off decently well with Mars. Shouldn't be the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it should be all right. I mean, the only problem is his width. But yeah, this canyon is... Right here is why it's a problem.
That section right there, see, I even messed it up there with better turn rate because it's just so hard to not bonk in any capacity. We're still going to get a low 4-minute time, which is pretty fine with Mars and 2 deaths.
Yeah, it was really not bad. And now we get Death Row's Revenge, which is a track I love, even though it's pretty basic. But it's got a wild skip.
Honestly, I would never do this in a real
Oh my
run.
God.
But
What is this
it
pod?
this is my
He's a pool
favorite
floaty.
non
Here we go.
input based. Oh, almost got it. Didn't quite have enough boost. But as you can see, we're jumping over here. It is incredibly difficult to do this in any situation. But I really wanted to show you guys what it looks like because it's just so entertaining.
Is it hard to make it there in 3 seconds, or?
Yes.
That, and you have to get the boost in order to not fall due to gravity enough. Also, we're going to do a fun little strat here called roof strats.
Oh, no, you're doing roof. He did not tell me he was doing this.
We're not going to do a good roof except for this. No, I missed the turn. No,
We're not going to... We're just not going to do a good roof.
We're just not doing good roof. But it is very entertaining to go up there. And honestly, if you ever see a good roof strat, I highly recommend checking out Gale Force or Ever Alert is their name on speedrun.com. They do an incredibly good one. Oh,
what?
Wow, that was a new one. Okay. But anyways,
I can say that's never happened before.
yeah, Ever Alert or Gale, you might know them for either Ocarina of Time back in the day or SM64, depending, but he is really, really good at the roof strats on this track. And if you ever check out that, it's really cool.
Someone in chat is comparing this pod to the Mystery Machine, and I kind of see it.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah,
for
I can
me,
definitely see that.
His cockpit is just a pool float. Like one of those
Alright, that was
floating
okay.
reclining chairs. Okay.
Okay, this time we're going to not do roof just because lap 3 is really not good to do roof on.
Yeah, but we're still going for the skip, right?
Oh, yeah. And now we're going to get
Did
it.
you get it? Yes!
We died on the entrance, but we did get the skip. It's an incredibly large bounce and very entertaining to do.
And it
Was it worth
saves,
doing? No, it was.
it
It's
saves
not.
less than a second per lap.
It is not even close to worth doing. But it looks cool.
You know, I love that skip. This also gives us our first look at, or only look in the run, at the out of bounds finish. It's technically faster to finish by going out of bounds like this because you can hold your boost to the end.
Mars,
if you don't blow
Mars
up.
does not have enough boost thrust, but it's fine.
And he does. You got
I mean, he
out of bounds
does.
timer.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
Fire Mountain Rally, aka longer but diet Grabvine Gateway.
This is the longest track in terms of time in the run for sure.
Yes. Second longest in terms of distance, but the longest in terms of distance you play with Ben, not Bullseye.
We're also going to be
believe-
cutting off most of that track.
Yeah. Also, I believe it was King Bean Dip who made a task for this track.
He
with
did not
both
finish
Ben-
it entirely, but he did compare them, and both Ben and Bullseye are essentially tied. Oh, the log killed me there.
Rule 1 is never boost over that log.
Well, you have to time the boost, and I did not do that.
Wait until you're in the air. But yeah, this is where I got to give a vocabulary lesson in tournament broadcast, and you're driving down the Pyroclastic Flow Trail.
Oh my god. Okay. I understand the reference.
I wasn't actually referencing anything.
No, I mean, I understand the vocabulary that you were using.
Yeah, because you're also racing through a volcano. Not the first or not the last time you'll do this in this run.
Also, I'm curious because you said rule number 1 is don't boost over the log. How many rule number 1s are there in this game?
25, one for each track. And honestly, that's not rule number 1 for this track, not at all.
I was expecting a very high number just because, you know, the rule number 1 meme.
It's basically 1 rule per track. Ooh, that was a weird bounce.
We're gonna not question it.
Yeah, no, we take them. In general, rule number 1 on this track is don't go too hard. It's very easy to get over aggressive and greedy. That dog barking outside. 152, that's not bad for lap 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, truly difficult to get good turns, especially with that death. Like, that time is actually inflated significantly off of what I should have gotten.
Yeah.
But the 60 FPS, we talked about that at the beginning, where the FPS impacts a lot of the traction physics.
It's
And
not
it
as
makes
bad on this track as Grabvine, but it's pretty bad. Like, this segment's where it really becomes a problem. But in the end, like, this section is not nearly as bad as the swamp, as an example. Let's see, what else can we really talk about here? I mean, is there anything that we haven't quite explained, Ray?
So is this the track where driving over lava makes it so you can't boost as long?
It's one of
It
two.
does also do that on this track, but it's not the one that people usually think of.
However, in the run, this is the one where we actually do go over the lava consistently. Because we skip most of the other one.
Was that any room that has lava, or if you're directly over lava?
If you're directly over the lava, and that does work over infinite height. Like, any kind of off-road or unusual terrain, no matter what height you're on, I believe it affects you.
Yeah, the only weird thing about that is that when it comes to certain off-road impacts, the stats might not change, but the timers will.
Yeah. It's very strange.
So, for example, the off-road terrain, when you go on it, it takes a second for it to ramp up its punishment to the maximum punishment, which is a 75% speed cap of your normal max speed.
25% cut off your...
Yeah,
you
you're
lose
cutting off
25% of your speed.
25%. But if you're in the air, it'll still count the timer without reducing your speed.
Interesting.
So yeah, basically, if you are in the air and then land on off-road, it will immediately cut your speed.
So what's the downside to repairing? Because I noticed that like you have damaged engines and you're not just always repairing them.
You lose speed. And
Okay.
you receive a turning penalty when turning in the opposite direction of the engine you're repairing. If you're repairing your right engine, you have a turning penalty turning left.
Okay.
So a big thing is timing those repairs to, oh, my right engine's damaged. I've got to wait until I'm turning right, and then I can pulse repair for about a second.
But since you lose speed, like you're playing a game of do I need to repair it?
Yeah. As a general rule on this and a couple other tracks, if you're past that, like that middle orange engine on his right engine is kind of your threshold for looking to repair.
Yeah, normally if you were not me, I would recommend repairing, but because I don't want to risk losing time to repairing, I'm just going to wait.
You're also just a super aggressive player.
Yeah, that's true.
And it doesn't like affect your speed when it's heavily damaged?
Nope.
Just
only thing it
higher
would
risk of
affect-
exploding?
The only thing it would affect, actually no, it doesn't even change your impactor ability. The only thing it would affect is when it's flashing red, it gives the same turn penalty as repairing.
Okay. So that's where you just need to repair it.
Yes, but that penalty stacks for each section of that engine that's flashing red. So here's a little dev intended jump. Also, we're on the track from the movie now. And yeah, we're just on the Boonta Classic. And it looks like little Skywalker's been forced onto the service ramp. I had to.
I don't blame you.
So this is another one of the harder tracks in the game.
Ooh.
Ooh, how did you live?
I not only lived, but I barely took damage.
Yeah. And here's a skip. You know, who's surprised? Every track from here on has a skip. Little wall ride. Well, big wall ride. Into
Okay, we
big jump.
did not get enough height, but we can clip back in here instead, which didn't work out. But the problem with that skip with this character is that it's really hard to get enough height to make it the whole skip. You can do it, it's just inconsistent. And normally I back it up if I don't get enough height by going over there. It's just that the clipping back in can be dangerous. Now here is an interesting section where you get shot at by the sand people.
Yep. And the weird thing is, it is RNG. Or actually, it's not really RNG. It's based on a global timer. Or not even a global timer. It's based on your speed going into the segment, right?
Yeah, so essentially there's these triggers that when you go over them, it takes your speed and essentially uses it to predict how far ahead you're going to be on the track after that point.
So if you slow
It's-
down between the two triggers, it'll think you're behind where you are if you speed up. So you can manipulate where they're shooting.
Oh, that's not a death I see every day.
No, I think that's puts you on the low ground. That's
It does.
That's really rare.
You do not see this track anytime ever.
I think
But
I've
that-
only
that-
seen that like once.
Luckily, it's not that hard to do. Oh, here's a fun little
this is
backup
really
that you can
awkward.
do here.
Whee!
If you miss the service ramp, it gets a lot harder to use your boost.
Yeah, it's not even harder to use. Not even just harder to use your boost. It's harder to not die. Like that area will bounce you around with no mercy. Also, we don't get to see it because we go too far to the left. But this section has the Sarlacc in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are actually two Sarlaccs in the game.
Oh
One of them is on
man,
Executioner.
really? Wow.
And that bounce can happen.
That bounce jumped me up into the ceiling of that section just barely enough to kill me, which is a very, I would say, rare way to lose that skip
Yeah,
compared to the many ways that you can die to it.
it still saves. That death still saves time over doing it normally, though. Not by much, but it still saves about a second. Also,
And you can
this-
see there, I actually got shot by the fire. Didn't catch fire, but it ruined my traction. And so it launched me into the wall because of that.
Yep. So they didn't put in like.
Oh,
I'm not sure what's going on there.
boost
They
didn't
didn't-
cancel again.
They didn't put in a particle effect for the Tusken Raiders shooting at you. They just had the fires pop up. Their way of simulating that you getting shot in the impact is them just kind of booting you to the side. And it really sucks when it happens.
We're gonna take a different route here because
We're
I
gonna take the
was
safe route?
too high of heat. Too high of heat.
Also, this giant chicane turn is way harder than it looks. And
I would
service
say
ramp
that
again?
this one is even harder though, because you really want to do this without braking.
Yeah,
like that.
Which I have trouble doing even with Bullseye. But
The
yeah, here we
crazy
go.
part is that Ben can do it consistently, so you really lose a lot of runs to that.
Yeah. All right, and going over hot flats again. See if we can land this cleanly. Really
Mm.
clean, like that was perfect.
That's exactly what you want out of the skip. You got no bonks on landing, and you get a nice big jump to cut off the most amount of distance.
Now let's see if we can go clean through the canyon. Is this one Beggar's Canyon?
I think so. I'm not the most familiar with the names, unfortunately. Oh, whoa.
What?
Okay, sure. I guess I somehow fell off enough to hit the bridge, which I was not expecting in the slightest.
That's an abyss death.
Yeah, that's the kind of death that you never see, to be honest. There's been a lot of those today, which, you know, is what you would expect. Ooh, we got that boost hold, which is going to save us a little bit of time. Not much relative to the amount of time we lost, but it's all good.
There we go. And now we're on to the final 4 tracks in the game, all of which have a notable or game-breaking, in a couple of cases, skip. Actually, only one track you see a significant amount of. Like...
Yeah, the only track that you're going to see the actual majority of the track is the last track in the entire run.
Oh, right, we do that one last.
I'm scared because you're relaunching your game.
Yeah.
I am also scared. I've been scared
be okay.
every time, but you know, it's totally fine. Nothing bad could happen here.
Why you
I'm
got to
sure.
do this? Why you
Why
got to
would you
jinx
say
it?
it? Why would you even tempt that?
Nothing bad has ever happened when restarting the game. Don't check the VOD. Look, you can just take me at my word for that.
Can we, though?
I think you can. Well, I mean, just think about it. What would normally ever be able to go wrong?
Looks at VOD.
No.
No. We already told you not to look at the VOD page. That's cheating.
Okay, points at VOD.
Could you restart the stream on Discord?
Yeah. I unfortunately forgot to do that before doing the skip, but, you know, at least everybody else can see it. I did, however, fail the typical way of doing one part of the first lap, and that's partly because things are a little bit scuffed, but, you know, it's fine.
So yeah, this track... Gotta
that you
pull
like,
up
Paige?
the secondary screen so I can see. This track is where things get really silly, as you can all see.
I actually
That was
managed
a-
to pull off the third lap skip in that. That's kind of crazy. That's really hard.
Start your Discord stream.
It does not look like it, but pulling off the third lap, like 3-second lap skip, is really inconsistent.
Yeah. So
And-
that track, you'll see that on 3 of these tracks. They just really, really overlooked some triggers. Like, not to say anything bad at all. Like, there's just some stuff got missed. And remember when I said you hadn't seen anything yet on the Weather Tenko?
Oh no.
This one is literally the Weather Tenko.
Yeah, it really is. That works?
Yeah. Because you go over the track down here. See that second loop?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because you go over the track down there, it updates your progress enough.
We didn't.
that-
Unfortunately, one of the laps didn't count, but that one will.
I think it was the first one didn't count.
No, it was the second.
Was it? Okay.
Yep. It updates your progress enough. Whew, that was dicey. That
Yes, it was.
that counts as finishing a lap. And now we get to see the fastest pod in the game for 2 tracks, because you unlock him with the 25th of 25 tracks. We just do that 2 tracks before. So this is Ben Quadraneros, the guy who exploded on the start line in the movie.
The movie?
Yeah,
And this is the one people are saying is the best pod in the game.
by far.
Yeah, not even close.
His boost thrust is 400. The next highest is like 360? Or 390 and then 360.
It's 390, but Bulls is significantly slower with heat to cool ratio.
So,
Now, this skip is known as a really funny name. We call it the Dwayne skip because we're bouncing off the rock.
Dwayne
Called
skip.
what?
Dwayne skip.
Oh.
Because we
nice.
bounced off a rock. We're very creative.
Yeah, you know. However, it is extremely inconsistent, and when you miss it on lap 1 with the AI in tournament mode, it's really bad. Now,
There
here
it
we
is.
go.
Then we just land on the track down here and get the hardest UFO tube in the game. Normally a lap of this track is about 1:40.
So even without having to restart it a few times, you still save 40 seconds.
Yep.
Yep.
If he gets a first try one, boost didn't cancel.
Yep. That's been a problem ever since that first time that everything has been an issue. But you know what? It's fine. We're working with it.
Yeah.
Technical issues, but we found a workaround, so it's all right.
Yeah, if he can land like a deathless first try, you'll see just how ridiculous this skip is.
Dwayne
Oh, I
Skip
missed
Johnson.
the corner. Okay.
Dwayne the Skip Johnson.
Now I'm gonna do a quick little fun backup here that you can do, where you can go
Maybe
onto
not with
this
that
wall.
start. Oh, okay. Somehow with that start. Yeah, you can ride this wall and jump on a little later.
And that's the old method of doing it. It's a lot slower, but it still works.
Yeah, you can still get a 45-second lap with it.
I'm not going to, but
No.
it was just a fun little showcase of what they used to do. Now, an interesting fact for you is that the world record of this, and actually the top 2 times, would have both already been done with all 3 laps of this track.
Yeah. Also,
There are
there's
2 times that are sub 2 minutes on the
There's
leaderboard.
there's also a third variant of this that we call Dwayne Skip Skip. That not gonna go for right now, but
DSS? We're playing Super Mario Odyssey?
yes. Oh, there we go. All right, let's see if we can get it.
Oh my word! How did I hit that? This
didn't
tube
spin
is
far enough.
this tube is actually really difficult to do with Ben at 60 FPS because
it
you
really
just
is.
get stuck to the middle and the asteroids are in inconvenient places. But it's
That was
still a
still-
43-second lap
Yeah.
with a death.
And now we're on the last track of the game, Ando Prime Centrum, which is aesthetically my favorite in the game.
Yeah, this is my favorite track from just to play it casually and not care about like getting a good time.
Also, I believe with every combination of alternate paths, there are 42 variations you can take.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah, there's so many different paths on this track.
Oh, I see that. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the map now.
Yeah. It's
Got
kind
to
of chaotic.
skip did not survive it, unfortunately, but that was the skip. You jump over the only difficult section of the track.
Oh, that bridge just doesn't have collision. Okay.
Nope. Neither does the handrail off to the side. This game is just not good at guardrails.
Someone in chat is asking if we didn't do Dwayne Skip Skip, does that mean we skipped Dwayne Skip Skip?
How many
Yeah.
skips would a Dwayne skip? Would a Dwayne skip? Jesus Christ!
How many skips could a Dwayne Skip Skip or the Dwayne Skip could skip skip?
Oh my
There you
word.
go.
I never want to hear that from anybody ever again. Let that die here.
I walked so Ray could run.
All right, we're going to do a fun little variation of the path here, which is actually a lot more difficult. It's called right side. A little bit shorter, only faster on laps 2 and 3.
Because we go to the right side.
We're really good at naming things if you haven't noticed.
Yep. God, I love watching this track though. Like, it's just really satisfying to watch some of the longer boosts through the city. Because like you're just, it's this game's Monaco Grand Prix. You're just driving through a city.
You know, we went longer than I thought we would with chat, without chat making a "This is Pod Racing" joke.
Oh my God, it took us
I thought it was
until
going to be
now.
like the first second. Because
I
that's
know.
all I
I
ever
thought it was
see.
going to be immediate. I didn't say anything because I wanted to see how long it would take them.
No, someone did do it right at the start.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah. But we only had the one until now in 2 hours. Now, speaking of it being late, I should probably turn on.
And now we're lapping the AI here for the last time in the run.
But yeah, we're coming
Always
up on time
satisfying.
as soon as he crosses the finish line of this lap.
Gotta say it with a lot of emphasis. Because it's your tradition, you gotta call it out.
And that's time.
Yeah, there we go.
Man, that was 100% of Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
With a lot of skips.
Yeah.
And some skips.
You know, skip some skips.
All right. I would ask for shout outs at this point, but everybody who is on right now is staying on, though I think Dom might not be talking much during the exhibition match. So
Yeah.
if you have any shout outs you'd like to give Dom, why don't you give them real quick before we go to break? And we'll do the exhibition match after this break coming up.
Yeah. I would just like to give a shout out to my good friend Ace, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. He's the one who got me into speedrunning this game. He's the one who taught me everything that I know. And honestly, there's not enough things that I could say about the man that would be giving you guys as much of an impression of how big of an impact he's had on both me and this community. So shout outs to him. Also, shout outs to all the people who are in my apartment currently supporting me, watching me on the big screen TV in the other room. I appreciate you guys. And also, it's been a great time. So I hope everybody who's watching has enjoyed. And thank you to everybody for sitting through this entirely technical, difficulty filled showcase. It's been a fun time. And I'll catch you guys in the showcase match with myself versus King Bean Dip.
We'll be seeing you all in a little bit.
All right. So, like they said, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to have a showcase match. It's going to be done in the style of the tournament matches that the pod racing community puts on. There's a tournament coming up, so if you want to learn this game and enter the tournament, you have a bit of time. We'll talk a bit more about times and information on that, but of course, you can always join the Discord if you want to see information on that as well, which is linked on thespeedrun.com for this game. But stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. Give everybody a chance to, get up, stretch, get some water while we get everything set up. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with that. Stay tuned. Right, everybody, we had surprisingly a couple more technical difficulties there with Dom setup, but we're pretty sure we got it going. So we're going to move into the best of 7 exhibition match here. Going to be done in the tournament format. So there's going to be some picks. There's going to be some bands. We have Paige here and Knock joining us. Hello, Knock. How you doing today? Yeah, and so the two of them are going to be helping walk us through the format, how the picks and bans are working, and just giving us the play-by-play of the race. This is what you would expect to see when the tournament's going on, same format. So even if you don't want to learn the game, if you want to tune into the tournament once it's running, you can join the Episode 1 Racing Discord. You'll be able to see some information when the tournament's coming up and be able to watch the races.
Yeah, we try to be as clear as possible in communication.
So what do we have for the first race? Has it already been picked and banned and such,
Yes.
or are they doing that now?
Prior to the showcase, they apparently Knox and Audible according to chat. Prior to the showcase, they both struck tracks. We have a bit of a back-end system for it. I'm not going to go into details of how they pick 1 out of 25 tracks. But basically, it's just they alternate banning specific things until they wind up on one track. And we wound up on Aqualaris Classic, as is tradition.
Yeah, this is the track we tell new runners to learn the game on. It's just hard enough that you can start to learn the mechanics, but this should be a pretty straightforward and breakneck race from both of them. This is a simple enough track that they will both be able to go full steam ahead.
It is also the track that I believe 40% of all of our tournament matches over the past 3 years have started on.
Really?
People really like this track. And I don't blame them. It's a really satisfying track. It's smooth to play.
What?
But after this track, we're going to go through the actual mid-match banning phases, and that's going to be a little more in-depth. But coming out of the gate with both of these players, it's anyone's game. They placed 2nd and 3rd in last year's tournament.
Yeah, these are two top-notch players here. All right, and both players look to be ready. So
Yep,
we'll be giving
both
the
players seem-
countdown, and they'll be starting in a sec.
No digital unity. I am not going to speak exclusively Huttese.
All right, countdown's coming. 3, 2, 1, and there we go.
All right, they should be off momentarily. So, like we said, this is a very straightforward track. It's definitely one of the simpler tracks. It is Baby's first hard track. It is, in general, a good track to learn because it keeps all the fundamentals. Like you'll see them both taking a really tight line through both of those and finding this little notch between the ramps. And just in general, this track is a competition of who can drive cleanest more so than anything.
Exactly, and we'll see coming up at the end of the track will be probably what defines who wins. There is a figure 8 series of turns that you have to do. Essentially, a big pair of switchbacks, and that is
Yeah.
the really technical part of this track where you can actually lose a lot of speed, and where if we're going to see a crash, that's where it'll happen.
Yeah. Also, you'll see them both playing. If you look at King Bean's screen, I'll say it after we go through the figure 8. This is where you can lose by far the most time on this track. King Bean with a 53.43, Dom with a 54.11. King Bean is ahead by about 7/10. But you'll see King Bean, bottom left of his screen, there is a frame rate counter. Frame rate affects everything under the sun in this game, and I mean everything. He's playing at 25 FPS, which means his traction will be lower. His durability will be higher when scraping along walls, but lower when crashing into walls. And the force of gravity itself will be reduced. If he goes off a ramp, he will go higher in the air.
Which does mean more time loss if he messes up and actually clips that ramp at the start of the track.
But it looks to be King Bean still in a bit of a lead. Dom had a couple of nasty bonks in lap 1. And Dom's also lower heat going into this figure 8. I don't know if he's going to underheat. I don't think so. No, he won't.
Doesn't look like
Ooh,
it.
King Bean with a big bonk.
Yeah, that's
They're
nasty.
dead even. They are dead
And-
even.
Well, I was going to say with Dom on lower heat, but King Bean actually has the lower heat coming into this lap, which...
But he also has lower base speed right now.
Yeah, just to clarify, since, this is online, their start times might not be perfectly synced. When it's really close, you go by whoever's in-game time is faster, correct?
Yep,
Yeah, of course. At the end, we literally it's not even when it's close. At the end, we just look at what in-game time they both threw out on their finish screen.
Okay.
Because the game's timer is accurate to like 8 decimal places.
That's ridiculous.
It's kind of stupid. Like you're never going to need that.
No, certainly not. And in fact,
This
we'll
looks
never
to
time
be
these things to the millisecond.
Dom slightly ahead. Ooh, King Bean's losing frames.
Yeah.
237.63 and 238.41. Dom with a pretty clean 0.8 second lead.
Yeah, that bonk at the end of lap 2 there really hurt King Bean. As you mentioned, his base speed was lower there, and there was just not enough time to accelerate back up to a higher base speed.
Put it in perspective, though, that puts Dom a little over a second behind the world record on this track in a tournament setting. So now we're going to get into the banning. Both players will get to ban 2 tracks for the duration of the match. And those tracks are just not going to be allowed to be picked.
They're coming in really fast with these bans. King Bean bans Bunta Training
Bunta
Course.
Training Course and Mangaza Speedway. Those are 2 tracks Dom's pretty good at. And
2 pretty short tracks.
yeah, and Dom banned very, very understandably 2 tracks that are on Ando Prime, the ice planet, because King Bean is the best in the world at those tracks. He doesn't have world records, but he is consistently, he's the most consistent top player on it. So we're not going to be seeing the first 3 tracks in the game or the second track of the semi-pro circuit. Everything else is still up for grabs. But now we just got to wait on players for what the second track pick is going to be.
Yep, and we'll go now into a series of bans that only affect this next race. We'll have a pod band, and then we'll have a track band. And then the loser of the previous race will get to choose the track and can also, this is a great time to talk about the force system, they have a few points they can spend on some things. You want to explain that, Paige?
Yeah. So best of 7 is something we're new to. I think they're going to have 2 forces throughout the track, or it's either 2 or 3. And they can either ban 2 additional pods, force the next track to be timed based on the fastest lap they get. They can enable skips for a track, or they can force the run to be done with no upgrades.
So that was something I was going to ask about. So these tournaments, it's none of the out of bounds skip stuff. It's just stay on the track, go fast.
If no forces are used, it is max up, or is any upgrades you want, and no skips. Which means max upgrades, no skips. No one's going to run on half upgrades.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It looks
we
like
say any
maybe-
upgrades. We say any upgrades because any upgrades because that means you can downgrade your traction and your air brake if you need them. So it looks like King Bean banned Bull's Roar, who is the fastest pod without upgrades, and second to Ben with upgrades. Dom banned Ando Prime Centrum, that final track we saw in the Hundo run, and King Bean took us to Malastair 100, which is that one modeled on Sonoma Raceway with the super impactful hairpin turn. Oh, there's the Jar Jar model.
Hey, there we go.
We saw it with his mittens.
And no force points were used on this one?
Not on this track.
No.
And this track, since we're playing it with max upgrades, is now a great showcase of traction.
Are they just going?
No. They're just doing a little bit of warm-up.
Okay.
Because this track specifically is played on the lowest traction setting possible. 24 frames per second, which we set as the floor because that's the only frame rate the N64 can play on. And the lowest tier of traction upgrade in the game. They're pod racing on ice. Watch Dom in this turn he's going into.
And it's all so they can take the final hairpin at the end of this track at speed. It's one of those, you can just barely make it at full speed if you do exactly this and get it all right. It's a very scary turn, though.
Okay, it looks like both players say they're ready, so we should be getting started here soon.
I will give them the countdown, and we'll be off.
Yeah. This is one of the only tracks I have a top IL time on. It's such a fun track to play. I've put so much time into this damn track.
Okay, both players restarting, so we'll be getting right into it here.
And once again, this is a track that's all going to come down to that very technical ending. That hairpin is where most of the time is going to be gained or lost.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's kind of a sleeper thing of the turn they're coming up to after this. This turn is very easy to go wide on, like they both did a little bit, and you can actually take it too tight very easily. Also, Dom held a boost that King Bean chose not to go for.
So he'll have a faster first lap time.
Yeah, but it is going to put him on higher heat in lap 2, which is going to be a little tricky. Oh, that's a death for King Bean. He went a little too hard onto the left, and like I said in the Hundo run, while you're sliding, it means you are way less durable. If you clip a wall while you're sliding, you are exploding. Now let's see Dom on this turn. Pretty good. Carry on.
Clean. Yeah, and that wall with the warning turn sign on it is notorious for just absolutely murdering you. Even if you're not sliding, if you touch that, it's bad news.
Dom got so lucky not dying there. What the? How?
All right, King Bean, pretty clean. A little bit of a bonk, but didn't lose.
35.08 was a hell of a time, but 34.4 is even better. What? Wow.
Both of these players are very aggressive.
Yeah, they are.
For pushing as far as they can.
Like in a tournament setting, they will still go for the highest, like the highest risk strats that they do in their normal individual level runs. See if Dom has a clean hairpin. He's got it. He doesn't have a clean hairpin. King Bean can take this back with a clean hairpin here. That's very clean. I have no idea.
Close. Dom has it by a second.
I didn't see.
Yeah, 150.9.
Less than a second. That was 2/10. 4/10. Wow. That was less than that was like a third of a second apart.
I like how Dom says LOL rip in the channel thinking he lost because of the crash, and he wins because Bean Dip also crashed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very real mental thing though in tournament. When you crash on a track, you start thinking, I have to push as hard as I can now because the other person probably didn't crash, and now I have 3-4 seconds to make up.
Yeah. So now we got King Bean going for another pick.
We'll see what these bans are coming out.
To answer a question in chat, unfortunately, yes, we are going to have to be a few seconds behind the video. It's just kind of reality.
Yeah, I don't think it's be 5 seconds. It should be about 2, 3, maybe.
All right, Ben Quadraneros is
Ben is banned, so we're going to get some variety. APC is now banned. Abyss Flap.
Oh.
Oh. All right,
So what does Abyss Flap mean?
So Abyss, anyone who's played this game as a kid is going to recognize Abyss on sight. It is a track where if you fall off the top floor, it's one of the split level tracks, like Death Row's Revenge, the one we skipped, when they had the big jump skip on.
Dom Ray says in the chat, that is a horrifyingly good pick.
Yeah.
Which is a great comment.
Yeah. So if you fall off the top level of the split, you are thrown onto a penalty lap that costs you 30 seconds per lap.
Oh.
It is brutal, and it is run killing if you fall once. In Flap, you get 3 chances at it, which is pretty good.
What is Flap?
Fast lap. It's basically you're picking the one fastest lap time that either player gets.
And I believe each of you is watching one player for their fast lap time, just so we can compare.
Do you want to take Dom? I'll take King Bean.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And the thing that's going to make this really horrifying is both. Well, okay, King Bean Dip is using Bull's Roar, who is the fastest pick here, but that pod is very difficult to control. Really awful turn rate, awful traction. Dom going for a bit of a safer pick with Mars.
Well, Jin Riso, he finally gets to show off his boy.
Yes.
That's the reskin? Okay.
It's really good. I like the design.
So if King Bean is clean here, and it seems like this is something he's prepped, he will be much faster than Dom is.
Oh, he loves Abyss. I question him every day for it, but he loves Abyss. This track, like, it's really cool. If the penalty lap didn't exist, it would be one of my favorites in the game. But the penalty lap exists, and as a result, my opinion of it's basically, it's very poorly designed. I get a penalty lap, but just like maybe 3 seconds, maybe 3 to 5 seconds, not 30.
Both players said they were ready, but
King Bean just got changed his lap.
Oops.
They both
Bean Dip forgot
4
to
laps.
change some settings. Yeah.
So this is just a technical thing. It's going to be the best time out of the first 3 laps wins the race. But we're going to set it to 4 laps because otherwise, after the 3rd lap is completed, if you only have 3 to do, it will cut it off immediately, and we won't be able to see the time and know who won.
Yeah, it doesn't show the lap time when you finish the lap because the race is just over.
But it looks like they're both ready now.
Yep, so countdown going in. This will be
Countdown has
exciting.
gone.
This fast lap force is new this year.
Yeah, this is the first time any of us are seeing this done in tournament. King Bean is playing on 60 FPS, and Dom, as usual, is playing without an FPS counter. Okay, they're going to be a little desynced, which is actually good for this. So if you watch King Bean, this first hairpin is actually a run killer already. He just immediately fell onto the lower level. If he doesn't make the recovery jump, which I don't know if he's going for, his first lap is doomed. Okay, he's going for it, and he did not make it. So King Bean's first lap is going to be kind of a wash. We can focus on Dom real quick for the cool stuff on Abyss. Holding this boost through this tube is actually pretty hard. And he's going the wide... Okay, he's just building speed then. Your base speed actually kind of builds very slowly after a certain point. Once you're at like 640, your acceleration falls off a cliff. And it eventually reaches 649 on max upgrades, where it stops. Technically, your base top speed is 650, but it's an asymptote and it's weird, so 649 is the functional top.
And this,
So Dom's on his first real lap.
Yeah, the strategy Dom is doing is not uncommon. This is pretty regular for most fast lap attempts in like individual tracks. Oh, and he misses. Falls down right at the end. That's very uncommon.
And King Bean makes his attempt. So we're on a real lap for bowls. Let's see what happens. This is a really chaotic place to be playing bowls. And he takes the shortcut. Okay, this is looking good. Staying up here saves a little bit over falling, but he falls. That costs about 3/4 of a second. But he's looking pretty good so far.
Dom only has the one attempt left to get a good lap here.
Yeah. Let's see what this time is from King Bean. 50.15. That's very good. Oh, and King Bean already fell on lap 3.
Alright, so he'll have to either hope for the recovery or that 50.15
He made it.
wins it.
He made the recovery.
Yeah.
But let's watch Dom real quick. We've already seen King Bean. Let's see if Dom makes it on the top level. If he doesn't make this top level, it's over.
Yeah, he's made the scary part. Alright.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This is real.
King Bean just died, so it all comes down to Dom on this lap. If he can beat a 50.15, he's got
It's gonna
this.
be very hard to do with Mars.
That's entirely doable. Especially if he stays up. He does. That helps a lot. And Mars is way better through this segment just from boosting. Or just because he can hold boosts. It's not looking great for him.
Finished to push 46.
46. Okay, no, he nailed that.
Holy cow. That is a blisteringly fast time.
Wow. And it's already a 3-0 lead for Dom. This is, oof.
So when King Bean chose fast lap, that was using one of the force points,
I was
right?
using one force, yes. Off the top of my head, I actually don't remember if he has 1 or 2 left because I don't remember what we made the ruling for best of 7.
I don't know if they changed it for this year. Last year it was 3 forces for best of 7 and 5 forces
Last year we
for
didn't-
best of 13.
Last year we didn't do best of 7s.
Oh, we didn't.
It was 9s.
Oh, it was 9s. You're right. It's been so long.
All right, let's see what King Bean does.
That's gotta
Something I
be-
did think about was playing out the 7 tracks regardless. Just to showcase its format a bit more.
Yeah, we can ask when they're done. It is getting a little late, so I wouldn't
Yeah, I'm not going to
blame them if they just want to get sleep once it's
Yeah.
over. If it goes,
I'll mute real quick and type to them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dom at least is on the East Coast, so it's getting pretty late there for him. Looks like the players are now wondering whether we're doing the full 7. That's got to be kind of a blow for King Bean, though, losing the track that he used as force on.
Yeah.
That was something he had prepped.
Those forces are basically like the forces are things you expect to win on. They're used to break serve.
Exactly.
And if you win on your opponent's force, it's a huge advantage.
But equally, having those forces, even if you're just using them on pod bands, forcing your opponent onto a pod they're not familiar with or not comfortable with on a weird track can force them to take something really safe that's much slower.
Oh, are we Dom's classic thing? He's done it every tournament. Let's not spoil it. We're not spoiling what's happening in this, but it's gonna be fun.
you're gonna have to explain why. So this is the classic thing.
Yeah. It's something Dom has done, or not Dom, King Bean has done at least once in every tournament. First tournament, it was against me. Second, it was against, I want to say Nacho. Third, I think it was Nacho again. Might have been Lightning Pirate.
All right,
Or no, it
they're
was
going
Mages.
for it.
But
All right,
you're
this'll
about
be-
to see what we're doing.
Back again, huh?
I don't know what this means, so you're gonna have to explain it to me.
We'll let them pick their pods and their track, just so that
They're
we
both,
can.
yeah, they're both picking 2 very low tier pods. Anakin versus Sebulba on Bunta Eve Classic. We're just replaying the movie. This is something a bunch of us have. This is something we do at least once every tournament. It's very fun.
Oh, and they're turning on all the AI too, so they're gonna have
God,
to
why?
contend with a full grid. Which shouldn't come too much into play, but could cause some issues really early on.
So this is essentially the equivalent of them doing the no upgrades because they're both picking very bad pods.
Well, Anakin's actually not awful. Like, they both handle well, they just are both really bad at boosting.
Okay.
Asder, the second track was M100. Yeah, they both have pretty poor boosts, but they both have pretty good handling and very good boost length. Well, Sebulba has very good boost length. Anakin's very similar to EB that we saw at the start of the 100% run.
Yeah, amusingly, they'll be pretty slow, but these are both actually pretty safe picks for this track.
Yeah, like they're both actually very good at doing everything this track requires. Also, if you look over at Dom's screen with Sebulba, you'll notice a little fun thing. If you pick the track favorite, it just randomly assigns someone who is going to get the track favorite stats and get guaranteed second place.
That's funny.
All right.
Like, any of the 21 base pods in the game can do it.
All right, countdown's coming, so we'll be starting here in a few seconds.
I don't actually know which of these pods has the higher average speed. I assume it's Anakin.
I think it's Sebulba, actually.
Shows what I know.
Let me go check, since we have a thing that tests this. No,
Oh, is
Anakin
that-
is fast. Anakin's average speed is faster.
Okay. Oh, Dom not even clearing the jump.
Oof.
That was unfortunate.
This is where I'm glad we actually have very, very thorough simulations of average speed for pods.
That was a horrible respawn for Dom, too. That lost him,
Yeah.
gosh, 10
Yes,
seconds?
Anakin is notably faster than Sebulba.
Okay.
But watching Sebulba is very fun. Like, I like the design of his pod a lot.
Yes, and Dom also showed us the unique mechanic Sebulba has, where instead of taunting, he just shoots fire at you.
Yeah.
But only out of
what?
the right engine.
You know,
Excuse
Sebulba
me?
has a flamethrower.
Yep, he can actually catch other AI racers on fire.
That's funny.
No, he cannot. It is cosmetic only.
Can't really?
Yeah, because they didn't know how to program AI being on fire.
Childhood me had dreams, Paige.
There's a flamethrower.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh, there's a death for King Bean.
That's still
But it's a
not-
much better death, and Anakin has better acceleration than Sebulba.
Yeah, that'll
I
bring it a
think,
little closer, but it's gonna take something major.
Yeah. I'm not the most experienced with the stats on either of these pods.
No, these are certainly very strange.
The one thing is, Sebulba is actually very good with no upgrades, despite his boost being awful, because his base speed with no upgrades is 600. Everyone else's is way lower,
Yeah,
except for Bowles and Ben.
Yeah. The only reason that he is so awful, or the main reason he's so awful at max upgrades, is with a max speed upgrade, everyone's top speed is the same.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Everyone requires a different tier of upgrade to get to that max speed, but your non-boosting top speed in the game, no matter what max upgrade pod you have, is 650. Also, that was a really cool little not death from Dom. He went between that rock and the wall,
Yeah, I don't
which
know
you're not
about
supposed to
fastest
fit.
pod racer in the galaxy, but luckiest pod racer in the galaxy, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, hey, last year he came up as the second fastest pod racer in the galaxy, which is still pretty good.
True. And he's been crushing his way through records ever since.
Yeah, like we said during the 100% run, Dom has 48 of the 50 main individual level records.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is certainly the favorite to win this year's tourney. Ace was joking about that last year, Ace being another one of the top runners of this game, who at the time was similarly dominant to how Dom is now.
I mean, Ace is still just as skilled as Dom. They're both nearly at, like, there's a case to be made, they're both nearly at the ceiling.
Certainly
Right,
when you look
it's-
at how close their times are to task times.
Like there are multiple tracks where if we were to task them, that it would be less than a second apart.
Man, that sandcrawler is in some strange places today. That
I'm so
goes on
not
a
used.
timer?
I'm so not used to the timing from these pods. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
Sandcrawler's on a
bizarre.
global timer. I'm not used to seeing it turning on lap 2.
Yeah.
Let's see what this front half of the lap looks like from Anakin. We've kind of been off topic for a lot of this. So he takes the safe jump and is just kind of going through the motions. This is a canyon dune turn, right? Ooh, oh god.
Oh, and he's gonna crash.
He's still way
Yeah.
ahead.
Definitely still way ahead, but yeah, that chicane is really brutal.
Everything about this track is very hard. Like, Grabvine was made to be tough and winding. This track was designed to kill you.
For sure.
Like, it was straight up designed to be the most death-prone track in the game, as far as I'm aware.
And actually, here in this sand section, you see, I believe because of the difference in their boost lengths, King Bean going for a slightly different jump to cut that turn.
There are multiple tracks that have a spot like that. Like Executioner, the lower route is better on a pod with a weaker boost because you can get more fast terrain.
Dom clipping
And on
that
this one,
hard.
it's similar.
This looks like almost a foregone conclusion for King Bean right now.
More or less. But this was kind of, and my read on it is this was picked as a gentleman's agreement to extend things a bit. Because Anakin has a huge advantage over Sebulba. Plus, Anakin at least handles similarly to Bullseye, which both players have experience on. Oh, King Bean. Both players have experience on it. So Anakin's a much easier adaptation than Sebulba, who handles very uniquely. Like, he has moderate handling, a very weak boost, and just weird stats around the board.
Yeah, for sure. A very
So
fun
543 and 553? 10-second lead.
Yeah.
I do like how Dom was using every opportunity to shoot fire from his engine as he could
Oh,
get.
of course.
It's the whole reason to play the character.
Like that's the only redeeming thing Sebulba's really got. Also, the fact that his portrait in game is great. Like, just look at him staring at the camera.
Yeah, the way his neck kind of cranes around.
There's a reason that's an emote on this
Yeah.
Discord server. All right.
All right, we're getting back into bans. Dom is banning bulls. So again, that's the fastest no skips pod. I might suggest
upgrades.
a no skips pick.
You mean no upgrades?
Or yeah, sorry, no upgrades.
King Bean banning Ando Prime. That's his best track, or at least one of them.
And strange that he'd ban it, knowing that Dom has been this whole time.
It's a mind game, clearly.
Spice Mine Run, no upgrades.
Yeah,
Oh
it
god.
is.
Oh god.
We're gonna be
Prepare
in
for
for
a
a long
5-minute
one.
track.
Is that a longer track?
It's the final track of the amateur circuit, and in amateur circuit, no upgrades runs. You're playing Beto for it, and you're typically going to be getting times of about 5 minutes, 10 seconds.
So not the worst, but long.
It's pretty long.
It's pretty long. When you're watching a 100% run, since you're switching pods and gradually upgrading it, it's not always super clear just how much the max upgrades are doing for you. But this, once we get into it, you'll see how slow they're going compared to what they have been.
Yeah.
This also, and both the players will be familiar with this, but running on no upgrades, with no cooling upgrade in particular, drastically changes the boost patterns and where and how you need to boost.
Yeah, so anyone watching might remember at the start of the 100% run, I said Beto takes a while to cool, and his engines take 22.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Ben's take 50.
50.
5-0.
Yep, they'll be getting
It's the
about
second
one full
it's the
boost a
s-
lap.
It is the second slowest cooling in the game behind Gasgano, who takes a full minute.
And Ben is still so good that they're still using Ben.
It's just like Sebulba. Look at his non-boosting top speed. So his boosting top speed is still putting him to almost 1,000. And his boost lasts a long time.
Yep. So the reason Ben is so good here, as Paige says, is that boost speed is not affected by upgrades at all. So Ben always has that plus 400 speed, even if he has nothing else going for him.
Yeah, it's strange.
Hi, Train.
Yep.
I wish they would at least tell you in the stats screen what the boost rate is.
Yeah. But it looks like both players are ready if we want to give them the countdown.
Yeah, I will go ahead and do that.
All right, countdown has been given. So this track, you're going to see a lot of time not boosting, and you're going to really get an appreciation for just how much the boost does. A little bit of a known camera glitch on King Bean's side that if you tab out, occasionally it will just lock you in to a reverse camera.
You have to like tab again to fix it.
All you have to do is press tab once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thankfully that one doesn't completely train wreck the game.
Yeah. So both players are now at max heat, and you won't see them boost again until nearly the end of the lap.
And that's both because the longer you boost forward, the more boost thrust it gives you. It ramps up over time.
It follows the
also-
exact same acceleration curve as your base acceleration does. So what you wind up with is two curves stacked on top of each other. And you just kind of drop back into it.
So do you also build more heat over time as well?
No, your heat buildup is the same speed continuously.
Okay.
It's just your speed changes.
So you just want to do long boosts.
Yep, as much as you can. And in that diverging section that we passed maybe 20 seconds ago, they take the uphill that they do, both because it's the shortest path and because it's hard to see, but the ground there is a conveyor belt, which is fast terrain. It gives you a nice big speed up.
Yep. Yeah, driving your hovercraft above a conveyor belt makes you faster.
It's just
Don't worry
physics.
about it. It just works. All right, so let's see what the times are on these laps for them. 140 and 139.36. So King Bean with about a 1 second lead, but on higher heat, so it's actually pretty even.
I mean, it's the same reason why driving your hovercraft over ice makes it slippery.
Yeah.
A little bit of a bonk. Doesn't look like it cost any speed, which is good. You saw in full upgrades, a bonk can cost a lot of speed. In no upgrades, even little wall scrapes can sometimes cost you full seconds because it takes so long to accelerate back to your top speed after that.
Also, a bit of thing in chat reminded me, people who are familiar with racing, both real world and other games, might notice the lines they take on corners are very different compared to a lot of other racing formats. In a lot of racing formats, you want to try to start every turn on the outside of a curve and get to the inside, or vice versa, depending on what's coming up. In this game, you almost always want to just hug the inside wall the entire turn, because turning doesn't slow you down. Like, the act of turning doesn't slow you down, so you just want to minimize distance everywhere you can. So you'll see them hugging the inside wall of every turn as close as they can. And that is very dangerous. A 137 lap versus a 138 lap, so they're pretty much even.
Yep. Although it looks like King Bean took another scrape and lost a bit of speed. Check how bad it is here, but
It's hard to tell because this track has a lot of slight hills.
yeah. It seemed like he was going
no.
maybe 10 speed units slower in that.
King Bean is currently ahead, but that's just a heat difference.
Right, which can be very deceptive. When it's this close, it really does come down to...
I think based on their timers and where they're on the track, I think King Bean is slightly behind.
No, King Bean is... If you don't take boosting into account, King Bean is significantly ahead. He's the one 4x3.
His timer is a few
Oh, no, he's 4x3.
seconds
I got it
ahead,
backwards. Yeah, I got it backwards. I thought he was the left one, not the right. Yeah, King Bean is significantly behind. You're right.
Yeah, he's still 6 speed units slower in here. That's what I was talking about with that bonk. And if it happens in lap 2 to him like it did, you know, that's probably a full second he lost just to one little bonk.
Yeah. It is still entirely feasible for Dom to die in this market section, though.
Yeah, on this 3rd lap here, trying to use all of your heat, even on no upgrades, is pretty scary.
But it's looking like he's clean. Yeah, he's clean.
Yep.
Ooh, oh, he lost that boost. I didn't catch his time.
I didn't either.
Nope, he won it by like 4
4
seconds.
ahead.
But that'll do it. That's a 4-1 win for Dom. Whew. We should probably wrap it up there. It's 2 in the morning.
Yeah, if only for Dom's sake.
And mine. I'm also East Coast. And
Oh,
Ray.
yeah, I forgot about that. Wow. That
Okay.
was
Yeah. Well,
a fun
congrats
way to
to Dom.
show off the new rules.
We only had 2 forces used.
Yeah, only 2 of them, but they were the flap one was actually one of the first times that was used. Like this is our first like kind of test run of that rule set.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. I'm glad we're pulling that into tournament because the fast lap strategies are a lot different from the 3-lap strategies.
If you're playing fast lap, you just play way more aggressively, right?
Yep, you're basically building up to one really aggressive lap.
Yep. And hey, we got our players back. They're not unmuted on the board yet.
Nope. There we are.
But yeah, if people want to check out the tournament, if they're interested in watching, if they would like to learn the game and maybe join, where do they go? Where do they find the information? Like, part of this was to plug the tournament, so
Yep.
give us the whole plug on it.
So, tournament. 1, we actually as a community are going to have our own YouTube channel for the VODs. I don't have the link to that handy at the moment. But we also are going to be doing our matches through Speed Gaming, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. They're a big community They're a big community behind races and tournaments in speedrunning. And we've worked with them the last 3 years, and we're going to continue to do so this time.
Yeah.
So to learn about the tournament, head over to our Discord, and there's an announcement there. And then in a week, the signups will be starting. There will be another announcement.
Yep, we'll have all the information readily available on our Discord. Actually, we kind of already have it.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll have a link to Discord in chat, I'm assuming, Ray?
Yeah, I can link it 1 second.
Yeah.
I just gotta scroll up. But I believe the racers are unmuted now. If you both want to say hello, hello.
Hello, everybody, and GD on the match stuff, King Bean.
Yep.
It was
that
fun.
was fun.
I forgot just how many options there are to like making things. It's like, oh, geez.
Yeah, no, there's a lot now.
I had prepared in case everything went sour to do the Anakin versus the Bulba. I figured you would go for it.
I mean, it's your thing. No one's going to say no.
I I quite enjoy gentlemen's agreements, so you can always sucker me into doing things I probably shouldn't agree to do.
All right. Well, for both racers, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap things out?
Nope, just, yeah, stay tuned and check in on the tournament or join. We typically have 20 to 25 players join every year, and it is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's
It gets
definitely
really
something you can have fun
competitive, and
with.
yeah, it gets really competitive, but also most of the players just have a ton of fun with it.
In general, as a community, there's not really any strat hoarding outside of like for a couple days in tournament before a match. It's a super supportive, super welcoming community. Like, never had any complaints about it.
Yep, and you can run on any platform the game is on, as long as you can stream to Twitch.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, according to what we said earlier in the show. So
It's
Oh, yeah.
PS4, Xbox, or PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, 64, Dreamcast, PC, and it's available on PC on 3 different platforms. And if you're really feeling frisky, you could probably track down a disc somewhere and go nuts.
Yep.
I don't know why you'd ever want to do that to yourself nowadays, but it's
I
fair
know
if you want
Ace
to.
used to.
all right. Well, thanks everybody. Any final words before we wrap things up?
Come pod race.
Yep, thanks for watching, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you to GDQ for having us.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming on. It was a lot of fun. Glad we managed to make it through those technical difficulties. But we're going to wrap things up here tonight. So stick around. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to raid somebody afterwards. So if you want to see some more speedrunning tonight, we'll send you in the direction of somebody who's speedrunning, so you can go cheer them on in their endeavors tonight. But make sure you tune in tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be Game Masters, which is going to be featuring a big Pokemon Unite showcase with a bunch of the Hotfix showrunners playing against each other. And after that's going to be Time Capsule at 10 p.m. Eastern with Nier Automata and Breath of the Wild. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. But we're going to call it here for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for watching.